this is the end of the West Coast leg of this tour. We've had a great time coming up the West Coast. We had Phoenix featured. Did you guys see Destiny versus Mr. Beef? How many of you saw that? that was incredible. Mr. Gibbs, yeah. And then we got to LA. Two venues kicked us out of LA, and then we eventually found a venue. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, we were in San Francisco, Portland, and now we made it to Seattle to see you guys. Thank you all so much for being here, by the way. This is absolutely impossible to do if there's not support, if people don't want to come out and see it. So please just a round of applause for yourself for making this happen. Okay, are you ready to rock and roll there, sir?
Yeah, I'm ready for my strong Trump defenders, and definitely not a bunch more Destiny fans looking to chat with me for 30 minutes, right?
Yeah, by the way, when we put these debate tickets on sale and it says, like, you must be a Trump supporter, you must bring a pro-Trump position to debate with Destiny, we really do mean that. But I know you want to get close to Destiny, I know you want to sit and chill with them, but you can always do that at the poster signing, okay? We have a debater today who just took a 4-day bus ride to be here. 4-day bus ride. It takes a lot of courage to come and debate with Destiny, who's obviously one of the best in the world, on a topic like this, in a setting like, he nods. Can you imagine that? In a setting like this, it takes enough guts, but 4 days on a bus, I don't know. I'm not sure I could do it. I want you all to give a big round of applause and cheer on Armando! Armando! All right.
Like I said, great seeing you again. So I have two topics that I want to talk about, and that was specifically how the government shutdown is the Democrats' fault, and also the second one, if we have enough time, being the militarization of cities being justified.
Sure. Can you, before, pull a mic right up to your face? Because you got it.
I mean, I don't want to kiss the mic like last time, bro.
You're fine. Don't worry about it.
Right.
You're the first one up, so you're the first person to kiss it. Yeah, okay, so you want to talk about the government shutdown that's happening under the Republican president, Donald Trump, again, in a Republican-controlled Congress again. It's the Democrats' fault again.
But what about the clean CR bill, man?
Okay, what about it?
The Democrats literally voted against it. The Democrats are holding the American people hostage.
Why can't Trump negotiate with him? I thought he was the great
negotiator. He's trying to. He literally tried to with Hakeem Jeffries. Did you not see that picture? That Trump 28 picture?
What happened in the negotiations?
They failed because the Democrats didn't want to vote for it because people like Chuck Schumer are caring more about, I guess, their leadership, like their position, rather than the American people, because Chuck Schumer doesn't want to get primaried by AOC.
Okay, so I don't know 100% on how the CR stuff works for the Senate. Is Chuck Schumer the only Democrat in the Senate that can vote, or are there like 45 others?
I mean, yeah, of course, but what about Hakeem Jeffrey? I mean, they all vote in unison, do they not?
I don't know, do they?
Yeah, I mean, they do.
That's why. Weren't there Republicans that Democrats were able to persuade to vote for legislation
only some
under
of
Biden?
them, like John Fetterman, but there's still other people who don't want to vote for it because they want to vote for their party, which would be the Democratic Party.
So Democrats are the minority in both halves of our Congress. President Trump is a Republican.
Bro, you need 60 votes to get a bill passed in the Senate.
So they need to get 60 votes.
They're trying to, but Democrats do not.
They're trying to?
Democrats do not want to vote for it.
What was their negotiation?
The negotiation well, first there was a clean CR bill, and then the second one, the Democrats proposed another one, and that one also failed because they want to have provisions for illegals.
They don't.
They do, actually.
For how?
So basically for reimbursements, so when an illegal goes to, I guess, an emergency room, the federal government would have to, I guess, reimburse the government. Not the government, the hospital, sorry, misspoke. So that's basically paying for illegals to have free health care.
Hold on. You're talking about an emergency room visit.
Yeah, but you understand that the federal government is gonna literally reimburse the hospital. Who pays for that reimbursement? Just curious.
They're legally required to treat people.
Who pays for that reimbursement? Just curious. Who pays for it? Don't avoid the question. Come on, who pays for it?
Well, it depends. It's either going to be the federal
Who
government
pays
or the
for
hospital.
and where does the federal government get their money? Just curious.
Right now, I guess through tariffs by taxing middle class and working class people.
No, actually.
Well, as of the one big beautiful bill, they get it from the Treasury by printing it.
What do you mean?
We're still running record deficits. We haven't done anything to address the debt at all.
Actually, the tariffs, he's trying to offset the deficit with tariff revenue.
Yeah, it's failing miserably.
How?
By not raising anywhere near enough money to offset the massive amount of money we're borrowing.
We were under a $1.6 trillion deficit. Did we not negotiate deals with other countries like
No,
the
we
EU?
haven't yet. No.
So what was the whole EU deal that happened in August?
We have the same deal we have with the EU is the same one that the Republicans have with the Democrats right now for the CR.
What do you mean?
There is none.
There is none. That's a complete lie. They're still negotiating.
That means there's not a deal yet.
No, they're trying to make a deal though.
That's what negotiating means. You're negotiating a deal. It hasn't been negotiated yet.
Yeah, but you said like why doesn't Trump try to negotiate? He literally is also trying to negotiate a deal. Not gonna lie.
You mentioned that Chuck Schumer had voted for prior CRs.
Yeah.
Didn't vote for this one.
Yeah.
Chuck Schumer answered that question. He said why. It's because in prior ones there's been negotiation. There's been open dialogue between both sides. On this right here, like Johnson has said that there will be no.
So would you not say that when Donald Trump invited the Senate majority and the Senate minority leader both in the cabinet, is that not like, I guess,
both in their what?
When Donald Trump invited them, that famous picture with the Trump 28 hats? Is that not trying to have some open discourse to negotiate?
I would say that having the Trump 2028 hat
okay,
in
he
and
was
of itself
trolling.
makes it. Well, then he's trolling. Well, now the government shut down, so it's his fault.
No, it's not his fault.
It
It's
is
the
his
Democrats'
fault.
fault.
It
They're
is
for
his
holding
fault.
for
It's
not
his
voting.
fault.
No, it's
why
the
would you troll?
Democrats'
Why
fault.
would you troll during a meeting if it's so important to keep the government open for the American people? Why troll in like arguably one of the more important meetings you have relating to funding the government?
Oh, why not? Just fucking.
Why not? Because now the government shut down and now
No,
he has to
just
eat
like
it.
you're saying just because he's trolling, that's shut down the whole government. That's like so disingenuous.
Well, no, the government shut down because the Republicans aren't negotiating anything with the Democrats.
They're
what
trying to. Are they?
What did Trump say he was willing to give?
Mike Johnson says he's open to, and also
What
like
did
I
Trump
said,
say?
Donald Trump just last night saying that he's open to negotiate.
You said they had that meeting. What was Trump willing to give in that meeting?
I think he said that he asked the Senate minority leaders what they wanted basically, and they basically wanted to give these provisions to help out these illegals, and Donald was like,
they wanted to restore what was cut from Medicaid.
No.
Yeah, which was the one big beautiful bill.
No, because the one big beautiful bill reformed Medicaid.
Yeah, by making cuts.
For people who were undocumented.
No, people who are undocumented can't get Medicaid. People who are undocumented cannot get Medicaid.
I swear, Mike Johnson, he cited from the Senate's, congressional, I can't remember the exact name right now, but basically they said that there are like 3.2 million undocumented people under Medicaid. You covered it during your stream.
I don't no. They can't. They don't qualify for Medicaid. They can't qualify for those things. You have to be a legal alien, or you have to be a citizen.
An illegal alien.
A legal.
Oh, a
legal one. Okay. Yeah.
So, no. Sorry.
The problem is that like Trump, you understand like the frustration. Like Trump can literally do no wrong.
That's not true.
Well, okay. Is it just a coincidence? Is it just a coincidence that he will have presided over more government shutdown days than all the other presidents combined in history?
I don't think that's a coincidence. No, I think it's just that Democrats, they have a big hate for him, and they want to blame him for everything.
Okay. So then Donald Trump can do no wrong.
No,
right?
he can't do wrong.
It sounds like if anything bad happens on him, it's just because he has to deal with a bunch of haters.
I mean, he does he not? Like,
didn't Biden have to deal with a bunch of haters?
The current did Biden?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. But
so why was he able to pass
legislation? Not as much as Donald Trump. I mean, you have the entire country, fucking rallying against him with no.
You don't
kings.
think didn't Biden at one point have literally 2 special counsels one against him, one against his son while he was in office?
And didn't Donald Trump literally have like 4?
No, all of them were dismissed as soon as he came into office.
Yeah, because he beat the case.
No, he didn't. They were dismissed because he was elected president.
No, that's
the one case that was tried, he lost. That's where those 34 felony convictions come from.
Didn't Jack Smith dismiss it?
Because Donald Trump came into office, they had to.
They had to. Well, okay, so you're saying that when he's out of office, they might like bring it up again?
If he survives that long, I don't know. He's old.
Come on, man. But
at some point, we have to say, okay, well, do you at least acknowledge Donald Trump is a really bad negotiator?
Some things.
everything.
Not on everything. I mean, the whole Ukraine thing right now is just a big
Pretty
flop.
bad, right?
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Israel, Hamas, that's pretty bad, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, actually, I think we're trying.
Yeah, we've got the 47th peace deal lined
it's
up.
not even because like of Trump. It's because he's like cucked to Netanyahu.
It's because he what?
He's cucked to Netanyahu.
A little bit, sure.
Yeah.
But, like-
because Netanyahu is holding him like he's like his handler.
Well, no, I think it's more that just Trump is an idiot and thinks that Israel's
I
popular
mean,
with
did you
old
see
people.
that picture of like Donald Trump, pulling out the chair for Netanyahu?
Maybe, but then there's also the picture of Netanyahu having to call and apologize to the Qatari leadership.
Yeah, but like that was because they just wanted to negotiate this like I guess peace deal.
Sure.
That's
Okay, so
happening.
if Donald Trump is a cuck for some people, Donald Trump hasn't done anything with Ukraine, Russia. We have another government shutdown. The two things, arguably, that Donald Trump could have taken credit for, one would have been the Abraham Accords, which was supposed to be peace in the Middle East. Seems like that's not working out.
Yeah.
And then the other one would have been the renegotiation of NAFTA into the U.S., Mexico, Canada
Well,
free trade
to be
agreement.
quite
which
honest,
is,
when he came into office, he actually wanted to get rid of NAFTA. He was, he said, American.
why didn't he get rid of it?
He said, well, because he had to play in politics. You have to, I guess, make some compromises. So that's why he didn't entirely get rid of it. He reformed it. But when he first came into like the political scene, he said, Americanism, not globalism. He was one of the people who championed to get rid of NAFTA. But like I said, you have to make
so now
compromises.
his renegotiation of NAFTA is blown up due to the crazy.
What do you mean that's blown up? You said that last time. What do you mean?
As in, like, Canada and Mexico fucking hate us now. We don't have a good trade relationship with them, and we backstab
blown
them.
up.
What? Blown up as in we had a an actual trade deal, not the ones that
Yeah.
are on Truth Social. We had a real trade deal with both those countries, and now we are tariffing them with no cause.
Well, like I said, there's reasons why we're tariffing them because of the fentanyl that's coming
that's
in from
blowing
Canada,
up the trade
and also,
relationship. That's you think we're tariffing Canada because of fentanyl?
that's what Donald Trump said.
I know that's what he said. Do you think that's why we're tariffing them?
What?
He also said he would solve Ukraine-Russia on day one and Israel-Palestine on day one.
Well, he said in 24 hours, but not which 24 hours.
Sure. So we could do like a Genesis chapter 1 reading of
What?
like how long is a day for Donald Trump deciding stuff. But so it seems like the great negotiator has not negotiated anything that's lasted.
No, the one big beautiful bill, he negotiated that, got that passed.
He did do that, although now
Okay, so he negotiated something.
he did, but it was a betrayal of all the things that he promised. Like
How is it a betrayal?
Because he promised that he would find waste, fraud, and abuse in government and cut it. That never
he
happened.
tried
was a complete
Doge
Yeah.
was a flop, but it was good in
a total flop. And then the one big beautiful bill had a massive increase in the debt ceiling, and it's more deficit spending and more borrowing from the Treasury.
Well, let's help out, I guess, it trickles down when you have these tax cuts.
It what?
It trickles down when you have these tax cuts.
Yeah, that's called Keynesian economics, and Republicans champion against that for years. They don't like deficit spending by the government because they think it causes inflation and ruins.
I don't think it's deficit spending. I think they're cutting some resources so they can allocate it to different stuff.
But when the government spends money that it doesn't have,
I know what a
it
deficit
incurs a
is.
debt, so it is deficit spending.
Well, I think they're cutting some programs and they're reallocating those resources.
Yeah, but on the programs
so
they cut, they're still running a huge deficit. They still have to borrow more money to spend.
Like what? Like USAID? I mean, we cut that. Did we not?
$50 billion.
That saved $50 billion?
Yeah, but what is our discretionary, non-discretionary total spending? Is almost, $7 trillion?
Well, in the trillions.
And now we're having to, it's like $7 trillion. And now we're having to bail out our fucking soybean farmers. Now we're having to bail out Venezuela or Argentina. I mix these two up. I'm sorry. Fuck South America. Okay. Now we have to bail out. I'm just kidding. Now we have to bail out Argentina for God knows what reason.
You don't know why we're bailing out Argentina? I don't.
Well, I know it's because he likes Malay or whatever. I guess.
What? I think there's a more nuanced reason than just him liking Malay.
What's the more nuanced reason?
I don't know, but I would look more into just him liking Malay. That's kind of stupid.
Is there like a Jew thing involved here?
No, that's not. Why would you assume that?
Because you're MAGA. And you're
Well,
young?
no, because
so like 95% of the time is a Jew thing? Why?
Well, no,
what is the thing with Argentina?
I don't fucking know.
Okay. Good troll. So Trump sucks.
Trump does not suck.
I mean, it seems like everything that he touches turns to shit. It seems like he's failed like monumentally in his job as a leader of Congress, like a spiritual leader
you're
of his
holding him
party
to
for
such
Congress.
a high standard, bro.
What?
Like, you hold him like to such a high standard.
to hold
Why
him to
didn't
the
you
same
hold
standard-
Biden to the same standard?
Biden exceeded whatever standard anybody set for him on every level.
How?
And Trump has failed. Well, he managed to pass tons of comprehensive, huge legislation, some that the Republicans wanted to but couldn't, like an infrastructure bill. He managed to create a ton of jobs and bring down inflation by the end of his term.
But he also passed stuff like the Green New Scam.
He didn't.
Yes.
No.
Did the Green New Deal not pass under Biden?
No,
So who did it pass under?
it didn't.
Oh, that's good.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that the leadership he provided on the world stage was good for Ukraine, Russia. He actually stuck to the commitment to pull troops out of Afghanistan.
That totally flopped. We literally left so much like military equipment there in Afghanistan.
Sure, it was part of the Afghan army's equipment. What were we going to do, take it from them?
No, not all of it. We left our own equipment there.
No, we packed up and we took our stuff and we left in place what we had granted the Afghanistan army to use.
That we granted?
Yeah, what do you think we spent like 20 years there doing and training the
So
forces there?
we paid for that equipment that we left there? Just
Yeah, welcome to war. Yeah, you pay for shit.
So that's our equipment, is it not? If we paid for it?
If I give
and
you a
then
birthday present, do I own the present? What do you mean?
I wouldn't call that a present.
Well, yeah, we were, I guess, nation building. Yeah, you invest in the other country and then eventually leave. We weren't going to take all the stuff.
I mean, did the Taliban, like, I guess, government that, not Taliban government, did the Afghan
national government, yeah.
Yeah, did that not collapse?
Yeah, it did, yeah.
Yeah, so it was a complete flop even after we pulled out.
Yeah, but I mean, what are we going to do? We're going to stay there forever.
So why are you going to like try to like say like that's such a good thing that like Biden did when
good
it
that he
completely
stuck-
flopped?
It's good that it stuck to the date because Donald Trump was the one who kicked the can down the road and scheduled the pullout date for outside of his term. But at least Biden stuck to it instead of just keeping us there for another 4 years.
I'm sure it was because he wanted to do it more strategically, like better.
And why didn't he
Biden.
negotiate that the first time? You see this pattern of Trump
it
fucking
takes
all of
a
his
long
negotiations
time, bro.
up?
Like you can't just negotiate
why did he
one
negotiate-
thing in like 24 hours.
Why Biden negotiated stuff? No.
In 24 hours?
No, why? Trump didn't have to negotiate anything in 24 hours. He was president for 4 years.
Like I said, you're holding him to this high standard.
I'm holding the standard just being a president. He failed on every single level. Human decency, basic decency, like
Human
presidential
decency?
decorum, like being able to champion legislation.
What do you mean he failed on human decency?
Like the fact that he constantly attacks enemies, the fact that he constantly...
what about how the one big beautiful bill literally helps out middle class Americans? I mean,
the ones that all got their Medicaid cut for them?
No, isn't there like a policy in the bill that says if you make under like 80K, you get like 5K in tax credits back?
I mean, there might have ultimately been some tax cuts that were made permanent from the last tax cuts, but I mean, like
those tax cuts help the middle class.
But it's just deficit spending.
Okay, but it helps out the middle class.
Yeah, but when Biden was sending out stimulus checks, you guys were crying that there was too much money.
But Trump also sent out stimulus checks.
I know, yeah, kind of.
Everyone liked that.
No, all the Republicans blamed the stimulus checks and stuff for inflation.
Okay, but how did the American people feel?
Okay,
about
hold on.
it?
Do you think that is deficit spending to help America good or bad?
It depends on the situation. I mean, because like let's look at like for example, like in 2008, we had to use some deficit spending to bail out the banks. If we didn't do that, we would have gone to a depression, and that's coming from the Federal Reserve.
I agree.
So, like I said, in some cases,
when Donald Trump initiated when he did the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, there was no pressure. He didn't have to do that. When he did that back in, was it 2017 or 18?
2018, I think.
Yeah, he didn't need to do that. We weren't under any economic turmoil. Like the markets were fine.
He wanted to help out Americans, did it not? Did not help out Americans?
But by deficit spending, for no reason.
But did that not help out Americans?
If you think deficit spending helps, then yes.
Did it not help out Americans?
If you think deficit spending helps, then yes.
Oh, so yeah.
Okay.
Well, why don't you like deficit spending?
Well, I mean, I don't think deficit spending is necessarily bad, but you probably have to have like a control. I don't know why you're giving me that face. Republicans are the ones that freak the fuck out every time Democrats deficit spend, even though these motherfuckers spend like a white woman at JCPenney's. Like the Republicans spend like fucking crazy.
What about when the Democrats were literally giving billions of dollars to Ukraine?
I think that's a worthy cause to give money to.
No, it's not. That's a whole proxy war. Victoria Nuland literally kicked out Yanukovych in 2014.
Even if it was a proxy war, who is the proxy war between?
Ukraine and Russia.
Wait, that's not a proxy war. That's just a war.
But America. But basically, the reason why America is involved is because the whole war is about like which sphere of influence Ukraine would be under.
Sure. So let's even run with this. That it is a proxy war. Shouldn't we be working on that? Isn't that good for us?
No, it's not actually because it strains our relation with Russia.
Well, but they're our adversary, right?
No, they're not. Russia is not our adversary.
If Russia's not,
if you say Russia is our adversary, I mean, we're not in the fucking Cold War anymore, bro.
Well, I mean, we just have contrary interests globally. I don't know why, but we do. I don't know.
Well, probably because we've been fucking sanctioning them since like the early 2000s.
Okay, well, why hasn't Trump done anything about that? He didn't make them our friends from
20... He's trying to. Did he not just...
He was president
he met
first term.
Putin
Why didn't he do it
in August?
Why didn't he do it his first term?
What do you mean?
Why didn't he make friendlier relationships with Russia in the first term?
Did he not? He tried to. He literally met with Putin during his first term. Did he not?
Yeah, he also met with Kimmy. He didn't get anything done.
Well,
What does Trump brag about
to.
from his first term? He says, I was the first one that gave javelins to Ukraine. I was the one that let them blow things up instead of all the blankets that Obama gave them, right? So all he's bragged about is making Ukraine more offensive.
No, but he's also bragged about how he's met with Putin multiple times.
Yeah, but that's my line. What do you mean? You said you want us to be with Putin, right?
What?
You said you want us to be with Putin, right?
I think we should have a better relationship with Putin.
Okay, and Donald Trump seems to have failed with that because you just said he said that he's not with Putin multiple times, right?
When did he say that?
Didn't you just say that?
No,
Did I misunderstand you? I thought you said, but he said over and over he's not with Putin.
No, I said he's with Putin. He met with Putin. I said he bragged how he met with Putin.
Oh, he's bragged about meeting Putin sometimes, yeah?
Yeah.
But he's also bragged about giving more weapons to Ukraine in 2017 or whatever. Mm-hmm. And we have nothing with Russia. The strikes on Ukraine have just gotten worse and worse.
Because we've also been sanctioning Russia for God knows probably 20 years, and we have investments in Russia. So why are we gonna sanction a country that we have investments in?
Why is he doing it then?
He didn't do it. We were doing it Obama did it.
Isn't he sanctioning people that are trading with Russia? Wasn't that part of the big deal with India recently, that Trump is sanctioning Russia's trading partners now?
With India, yeah. He sanctioned India because India buys petroleum from Russia.
Okay, so what do you support in regards to Russia, and how do you think Trump is furthering that? Because it feels like he's all over the map right now.
In a way, it does feel like he's all over the map, but I feel like we should, pull out of Ukraine, stop helping them, and we should make our relationship with Russia a lot better. Pull out of NATO as well, because NATO is another reason. I feel like the whole reason that NATO was even made is to be an adversary of Russia, so that's not really helping, this peace that everyone wants.
Why would it be adversarial to Russia if it's a defensive alliance?
It's a defensive alliance between the West and Russia. That in and of itself is fundamentally adversarial, is it not?
I mean, only if they attack, right?
But yeah. Not only if they attack. It's we've been expanding our borders more and more to the east. When Gorbachev,
we expand because countries ask to join NATO.
But you understand that when Gorbachev tear down the wall, he told H.W. Bush explicitly not to expand to the east, and H.W. Bush agreed. But
no, I don't think so. I don't think that ever happened.
Yeah, that's what happened.
I know it didn't. I promise it didn't.
It did.
There's that 1 inch east, not 1 inch eastward quote that had to refer to the militarization of East Germany. Right? That referred to the militarization of East Germany. Mm-hmm. You know how it's impossible that he made that promise that they wouldn't expand eastward? It's because when Gorbachev was, I don't know if it was the premier or whatever of Russia, you still had the Warsaw Pact and you had Russia. There was no place eastward for...
But then the Warsaw Pact completely dissolved after the USSR.
After, yeah.
Yeah.
So there was...
After the USSR dissolved, why didn't we get rid of NATO then?
But I'm saying, why would he have made an agreement in the 90s, or at 1990 or 89? Why would he have made an agreement not to expand eastward when the Soviet Union and the Warsaw Pact was there? Nobody knew it was going to collapse. That's why I'm saying that agreement never existed.
Because he didn't want the NATO to expand closer and closer to
they
Russian
couldn't get
borders.
Closer. They were already all
They
bordered.
could have. I mean, and right now they are getting closer.
No, I'm saying Finland. At the time that promise couldn't have been made because they were right up to each other. Mm-hmm. Like your Baltics and everybody were in the Warsaw Pact, and everybody and Poland, everything is in the Warsaw Pact, mm-hmm. and then NATO countries are right up to the border of the Warsaw Pact countries. So why would they made an agreement not to expand eastward? There was no place to go eastward unless you knew, into the future, that the Soviet Union was going to collapse. I don't know. That's a bad one. Greenwald never used that argument, but it's bullshit. I'm just saying, also, there's no agreement on paper, and Gorbachev himself has come out in an interview and said that wasn't an agreement, and there was no formally signed agreement. It would make sense for there to be an agreement. But regardless, Trump has done nothing.
No.
This is really hard. This is a hard position for you to defend, right? Ask me to defend anything about Biden. Watch how easy this will be. Ask me to defend something about him.
I mean, he did the CHIPS Act. That was pretty good.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, but give me something to defend. That's hard for me to defend about Biden, yeah.
Defend about Biden?
Yeah.
I guess how he lied to the American people about him not being senile.
I feel like there is more evidence of Biden's mental faculty than there is of Donald Trump's.
Yeah, I mean, Biden was falling downstairs.
So, one, he might have taken a stumble once. He's an old guy. That has nothing to do with senility, number one. Number two, didn't Trump himself have a stumble walking up the stairs to Air Force One? That Rubio...
but as many times as Biden, and also, did you not see that whole debate that they had last year?
I watched the debate. The debate performance was bad.
Yeah,
I don't know if
exactly.
the
Can you
debate
really defend his debate performance?
No, I thought it was a bad debate, but I don't know if it's evidence of senility. The problem is like, so we've seen Donald Trump make a multitude of errors. He was sitting right in front of a guy that he didn't recognize when he was talking to all of the world leaders at that long table, right? And he had to ask where the leader of...
okay, and also
right?
he called, and also Biden called the president of Egypt the president of Mexico. He mistaked that. I'm probably getting those two reversed, but anyone can find the clip.
Donald Trump said he was flying to Russia when he was going to Alaska. It was kind of weird, right?
Donald Trump seems to
forget a lot of things too now as well, right?
Didn't we buy Alaska from Russia?
Well,
did we not?
Do you think that's what Trump was referring to?
I think so, yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Did we not though?
Donald Trump looked like he was playing Rust, okay, walking down the red carpet, okay? He was like zigzagging, dodging sniper fire, okay, when he was walking to that meeting with Putin. He seems to forget a lot of stuff. He seems to not know any of the executive...
So does Biden. Yes.
No, I don't think so. You might have stumbled or stuck to talking sometimes, but for instance, here's
sometimes.
the thing that you look this up when you get home. I have never in my life seen Biden sign an executive order that was handed and explained to him. Yeah, because he signed
it with a fucking auto pen.
No, that was handed and explained to him. He would come out, he would explain it on stage, he would walk over and he would sign it. Donald Trump literally...
They were doing that for the TV.
Okay, how do you feel when Donald Trump is having these papers given to him and explained to him before he signs them, and he's just nodding along?
I think they're doing that for the cameras.
You think Donald Trump is pretending to be a clueless dipshit who doesn't know what he's signing for the cameras?
I don't think he's pretending to be clueless. Why do you think he's clueless about it?
Because they're handing him a thing, explaining it to him. He's going, oh, good idea, and then signing it.
I mean, what's wrong with letting the president know something he's about to sign?
Because they're his executive orders. He should probably know what's in them before he signs it.
Yeah, that's why they're explaining it to him.
Okay, so... Stephen Miller is probably running the White House more than Trump right now.
I don't know about that.
You're laughing. You know it's true. Right? That's a hard one, right? Yeah, like this is the issue. You don't have a... I promise you that when you do, assuming our country still exists in 10 years, if you do Republican debates, they will be much easier than this because it is just a totally indefensible president. And every time you try to defend anything, you have to engage in the craziest mental gymnastics to make any of it work. It's really difficult.
You think I'm doing mental gymnastics right now?
Yeah, of course. How do we explain the fact that this guy's presided over more government shutdown than every other president combined?
Because the Democrats hate him.
Yeah, it must be because of all the haters.
Yeah, it literally is.
Meanwhile, if I point to the biggest haters in the universe were the Republicans under Barack Obama, it wasn't even close the level of hate.
I mean, well, because you had people like John McCain who were like unifiers.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why it was a less
John
tense
McCain
situation.
was a unifier, and he was the guy that objected to Donald Trump's vote to pull the ACA completely. Remember that there was a gasp on the floor?
Yeah, he killed the bill.
And that was the unifier. How did Trump bungle that one?
What do you mean?
How does he not have any? How can he not do anything effectively as a leader?
Well,
Donald Trump can't lead.
He got the one big beautiful bill passed. That's doing something.
Barely, but I mean,
barely.
He managed to pass a thing in the same way that if somebody asked me to cook dinner and I ordered McDonald's, technically I got the job done, right?
No.
Donald Trump came in.
That's such a weird analogy to have.
Okay, well let's see. Did Donald Trump promise to lower the deficit and the debt?
Yeah, the Doge.
So failed that with the one big beautiful bill, correct?
Because it's raising the debt ceiling.
Yeah. And borrowing more, and the deficit is increasing. So he failed that. Doge didn't really find waste, fraud, and abuse, despite all the...
No, they did. We were sending fucking condoms to Gaza. Do you not remember that?
We were sending what?
Condoms to Gaza.
I think it was like Madagascar.
Oh my God, no. So we were sending condoms to Madagascar. So much better.
Well, it's part of our USAID program, yeah?
USAID?
Yeah, USAID, yeah?
Yeah, I'm glad we cut that. Because that's complete waste.
Why is it a complete waste?
The condoms to Madagascar? Why are we sending condoms to Madagascar?
Do you think that we might have a vested interest in preventing...
Why are we sending condoms to Madagascar? You're not really answering the question, Destiny.
They prevent the spread of the transmission of sexual diseases.
And that's the American taxpayers' responsibility?
It's in our best interest. Where do you think diseases come from?
Where do you mean?
Oftentimes they can come from poorer countries that don't have the same sanitation, they don't have immunization, they don't have the same level of hospitalization. Diseases can manifest in these places, and they don't respect borders the same way that we might want them to. So if there's the whole transmission of the Omicron variant, I'm pretty sure the idea is that bounced around in a whole bunch of immunocompromised people.
No, the whole Omicron was complete bullshit.
Okay, I forgot. I'm sorry. I can't use the COVID example. Diseases can come from poorer places. It's good sometimes to have a hand in helping the population, and it spreads American influence. It spreads American goodwill. Like, it's a worthy mission, and it's considering all the other money we spend on shit, it's relatively cheap.
So you want your tax money to go towards condoms in Madagascar?
If that part of the broader mission
yes
abroad,
or no?
yes,
Yes. Yeah, that's complete waste.
How is it a complete waste?
Because we don't need to do that. That's not in our best interest.
An easy investment in preventing the spread of disease in other countries.
Because the HIV is totally going to come back from Madagascar.
I mean, it spreads. Stuff spreads. What do you mean?
Yeah, because it's totally the fucking 80s.
Because what?
It's totally the 80s. No, HIV is not like a problem anymore.
There are other diseases that can. There are other diseases that can spread as well, right?
It's like such a big I guess what?
Jump to imagine that? Like, don't we have issues right now with antibiotic resistant like syphilis and gonorrhea? Like, these are issues that, like, across the world, people are a little bit worried about. If you can prevent the spread of some of these diseases in some places, it kind of helps everybody. Mm-hmm. And if we can have such an easy way to influence the world, like, why not?
Yeah, but I don't want my tax money to go towards that.
Why not?
Because I don't want I just don't want
Do you think that our money should help anybody?
Are you religious? I think it should help Americans.
Are you religious?
Not really.
Okay, do you think that you have any obligation to help somebody if you have, like, a disproportionately wealthy ability to do so?
I think we should help out Americans.
We do help Americans. We do both at the same time.
Yeah, Americans.
But helping other people
America.
also helps Americans, right? It gives us a better view around the world. It allows people to have, like, healthier stuff in their country, which prevents blowback, to our country if it's, like, the spread of diseases. It gives us more influence in places. Like, aren't these all, like, good and easy ways to build influence that doesn't involve, like, nation building or wars or bombing people or, anything like that?
No, I think it's complete waste.
Okay. You keep saying, like, my tax salary. Do you even pay taxes right now?
Yeah, I have a job.
Okay.
So I don't worry. Called off to be here.
All right. Do you have a final topic you want to quickly chat with Stephen about?
Let me think.
Or are you good?
I think, well, I mean, like, okay, hold on. We are in a tremendously wealthy nation, the wealthiest nation on the planet, yeah? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. We want to have a positive rapport with other nations. That's in our best interests, right? For other nations to look favorably upon us, right?
Depending on the nation, yeah.
What do you mean, depending on the nation?
I mean, like, would you want, like, a nation that's, like, run by a dictator to look favorably towards us?
I mean, you yourself said that you want Russia to be friendly with the United States, right?
Putin's not a dictator.
What?
Putin is not a dictator.
Yeah,
in fact, no, I think Zelensky is the dictator.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is. He's literally kidnapping people off the street and then forcing them to, like, be in the military.
That's called a draft or conscription.
Yeah, okay, buddy. So would you want to get drafted in the military?
I mean, it would depend on the war.
What if the person who's getting drafted does not agree with it, though? Like, most of the people.
Tough shit. I mean, what do you mean? You have to be
shit. Okay, so then what if you don't agree with it then?
I mean, it would depend on the war.
So then tough shit, actually, because no, you'll get drafted either way.
Then I fucking leave the country, I guess. What do you mean? I mean, we can talk about, like, the war. They're being invaded by a neighbor. If Mexico and Canada decided to host, like, a joint invasion of the United States and I had to be drafted from my country, then fuck it, I guess, sign me the fuck up.
Invaded by a neighbor? I think the Luhansk region, which is primarily Russian or ethnically Russian, wants to be a part of Russia. So I don't think it's an invasion.
So, one, you don't get to just want to be a part of another country and then secede, number one. Number two...
Well, Ukraine was literally a part of Russia for like 500 years and even before that.
Okay, and the whole southwest of the United States was part of Mexico, and there's a lot of Mexicans that live there now. Do you think that should go back to Mexico? What do you mean?
No, they lost that shit, and also they sold it. They sold that land.
Okay, these are deeply unserious arguments, right? Ukraine was a country from '91 onwards. Everybody recognized it, includly Russia. They can't take it back.
Onwards.
That's time moves in one direction.
How long was Russia a country before that?
I don't know. The empire of hundreds of years.
Yeah, thousands. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So they have more of a, I guess, legitimacy towards Ukraine than fucking whatever Ukraine is now.
Okay, so if there are a couple natives outside that want to take over the government because they think that Native Americans have been here longer than the colonizers.
Well, they lost it. So tough shit.
Okay, and the Soviet Union collapsed, so they lost all of their, Warsaw Pact countries and their Soviet Union bloc states. So.
Yeah, because we gave it up.
No, because
we gave it up. They gave it up.
Yeah, because they collapsed, right?
Yeah.
So Ukraine was one of those. They're a country now. They have their own borders. Russia doesn't get to take any of that.
And if they do?
What?
And if they do?
Then people should stop them.
No.
Okay. Do you think we should have intervened in World War II?
Well, we were forced to intervene when we got attacked by Pearl Harbor.
We weren't forced to. We didn't have to.
Pearl Harbor.
That didn't make us have to.
What do you mean they didn't make us have to?
Nobody would force us to go to war. We could have just bombed Japan.
Japan bombed us.
I understand they bombed us, but
so then Congress declared war.
Yeah, but they didn't have to. I'm asking
Yes,
if we
they
should
did.
have. No, they didn't. What do you mean? It's not like they have to.
We're not just gonna get fucking bombed by another country and let that shit slide.
Okay. So then there are times where if we get attacked, we have to respond, right?
Huh?
There are times where we get attacked, we have to respond, right?
Yeah.
Okay. If we knew that Japan was going to attack us the day before, would it have been okay for us to attack beforehand if we would have known?
If we knew,
Yeah.
that would have been a preemptive attack. Then yeah.
Okay. So then why can't we play that logic out a little bit further and try to preempt situations around the world that would be catastrophic?
Because
to US
the difference
interests?
is with that example is that we didn't know that we were going to get attacked before. This was a complete surprise.
Well, but I mean, we'd already kind of taken a side. There's a reason why we got attacked, right? We'd already kind of taken sides in that conflict anyway, right?
Well, no, I know we were sending funding or aid to Europe.
Pretty significant, right? I think we were already doing Lend-Lease with the Soviets. I think we'd stopped trading with Japan. Where are my history people?
So are you defending why Japan attacked America?
Well, I mean, I think they had reason to, sure.
They had reason so then we had reason to attack them back, and that's why we declared war.
I agree with that. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
I'm not going to
so
disagree, but I'm saying that we should probably be not as short-sighted to say that if Russia is invading countries in Europe, that we probably have a very big interest in not allowing that to happen, because that's eventually going to spill over into everybody just deciding they can invade people again.
So you think there's going to be a domino effect?
Well,
the domino effect has been a myth.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it seems like they messed around in Moldova, okay, after 91. They did the huge thing in Georgia in 2006 or 8 or whatever. I don't remember, 2006 maybe, under
2008,
Bush? No, 2008. No, I think it was under Obama. It might have been a little later.
It was,
but they went into Georgia, they took some territory, and then they came back. And now they're in Ukraine trying to take some territory and run it back.
Yeah, because Ukraine is going under the sphere of influence of the West.
So? That gives them the right to invade them?
Yeah, because would you really want for example, Mexico to have a defensive treaty with a country like China, when it's literally right under us? Would that make sense?
Russia's already neighboring NATO states.
Yeah, and that's a threat to them.
Well, then, no, in what way?
Because NATO in and of itself is an adversary of Russia, is it not?
When was the last time Estonia invaded Russia?
They don't have to invade.
When was the last time they threatened Russia? Russia doesn't feel very threatened by now Finland and Norway
and
Sweden.
This whole treaty is it's a defensive treaty.
Yeah, if you attack us...
It's creeping up on their border. Is that not they're basically forcing Russia into this?
That doesn't make any... Would you think it's weird if you go to visit your neighbor and your neighbor starts complaining that his neighbor put in a new crazy security system for his house? And it's man, if you try to break a window there, these motherfuckers will hear everything. It's bullshit. Wouldn't that be kind of weird? Wouldn't you think that that's a little bit strange to be so concerned about that?
I don't really get your analogy.
What?
I don't really get your analogy.
My analogy is it's very strange that Russia would be so perturbed by a defensive alliance on their border unless they had the inclination to attack other countries.
But what if for example NATO randomly attacks Russia?
That's never happened.
It could happen.
Why would it randomly happen?
Because what if they say, oh well, Russia is might do an attack, so we have to stop that attack through a preemptive strike.
That's retarded.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts there, Armando?
Nah, that's about it.
Okay. Everyone put your hands together for Armando. It's not easy to get up there and do this. All right. Yeah, say what? What do you want to say?
I don't know if you're going to upload it, but I also debated Dave Farina and Dan Wilson.
Yeah, you did. I will upload that.
Yeah, so if you can check out the Pangburn channel, you can see my other debate. It's a 2v1.
All right. Thanks, Armando. All right. Next up, Mr. Tristan Zapp. Tristan, you're up next. Give him a round of applause. Let's bring him to the stage. Big round of applause.
Oh, I have to get used to the way this microphone is. Good like this?
Yeah, nice and close. Yeah, you
right,
can
cool,
be
cool,
pretty
cool.
close to it. Yeah.
Okay. So I debated you last time in NYC, and that was a fun little back and forth. I'm hoping to kind of continue that energy here. So what I'm aiming to as an opening topic first is about the censoring of Jimmy Kimmel and him getting fired, and why that's a supported initiative, and I agree with that. It's the first topic I want to hit on. Second topic I want to hit on is the fact that it's a good idea to return American manufacturing back to the United States of America. And the third topic I want to hit on is the fact that I think that the Supreme Court's ruling on President Trump's immunity was justified. So that's kind of why I want to go through them. Easiest one first is, and I think this is like pretty straightforward, I don't think you can argue that Jimmy Kimmel's censoring wasn't justified. He was spreading misinformation live on air. Okay, I know a lot of people were complaining about the fact that it was related to Charlie Kirk's death, and that's what you keep hearing on the conservative side of things. They keep drumming on and on and on about it. But from my perspective, being on the right, it was more about the fact that he straight up said that that the guy was a MAGA shooter, right? He said this was one of MAGA's own, right? And he said that in the speech. You can look at it. I see a lot of head nods in the room. You can look at it specifically. He says this was a MAGA shooter. And it wasn't a joke. And here's the thing. When you spread misinformation on your side, I think it's perfectly valid to be deplatformed.
Okay, hold on. I would applaud that, maybe. Okay, so the first thing, okay, I'm going to try this. Okay, what is the, where do you normally get your news from?
Honestly, this is going to sound crazy, but I usually cycle around between a lot of different news sources. So I check out extreme right-wingers like Gavin McInnes, right? I check out some America First stuff. And then I also check out some left-wingers like Hassan, Vosh. I scroll through some of your stuff too on occasion. It's just that it's really important to get a good gaze of what the political spectrum's like and what the people around me are thinking. So
okay, so Jimmy Kimmel. The reason I asked is because Jimmy Kimmel absolutely did not say that guy was a MAGA shooter. What Jimmy Kimmel said was that it was. I'm paraphrasing slightly, but it was something along the lines of after this information has come out, Trump and the MAGA people are doing everything they can to label this guy as anything but their own.
Yeah,
that's what he said.
Okay.
That statement is true.
Yeah, if they're doing anything to label him but their own,
yes,
the implication there is that he was a MAGA shooter.
I mean,
how is that not the implication?
So, being good faith, you can argue that could be an implication. You could take that from that.
What is the implication you took from that then?
Well, the explicit meaning, what he's saying is that they're doing everything they can to make it so he's not one of their own. That is true. The second the shooting happened, before we knew anything about this, Vance, Trump, and everybody else was already declaring that it was a crazy trans shooter, that the person was a left-wing extremist. We didn't know anything about it. They were doing anything they could to make it so that he wasn't one of their own. That is what they were doing.
Okay. That's I feel like it's a little disingenuous on the wording because the implication there is, from my perspective, that he is implying that if they're doing everything to make him seem like he's not his own, there's implicit guilt in that statement, right? Because he was talking and he opened up. I watched the entire thing.
Yep.
He opened up talking about the shooting, and basically the right wing's response to it was to make it seem like it wasn't their own. Right?
Which was the response, and it was disgusting.
Yeah, but if the implication is that the right isn't trying to make it seem like it's their own shooter, then the implication is that it is one of their own.
Like I said, if you're being super good faith, I understand how somebody could take that from it, but I think that my interpretation is just as valid because explicitly and factually it was true. They were doing everything to label this guy as not a MAGA person as soon as they could.
If you could pull two different types of perspectives from the same type of line delivery, don't you think there's an issue with the delivery in itself, right? If he's appealing...
I understand what I'm saying. I'm just saying, firstly, that what he said explicitly was true. We can argue that the implication maybe was that kind of sounds like you're saying it was a MAGA shooter, although he didn't say that anywhere else in his opening speech or anything. We could argue that you could take it from that, right?
Who's Jimmy Kimmel's main audience? Would you argue on the political spectrum?
It's probably going to be boomerish people.
Yeah, but on the political spectrum, who is he largely going to be probably seen
My guess is going to lean nowadays probably quite a bit to the left.
Yeah, right. So when Trump goes on stage and he says we're going to fight like hell, and you claim that that's being violent rhetoric and other things, right? And you call out the fact that because of his base being violent, that's the way his base is going to interpret it. When left-wingers hear Jimmy Kimmel say the right is doing everything they can to not blame one of their own, the implication there to a left-wing audience is going to be that he's one of their own, right? And we see this before you continue. Just 1 second. The headlines you see from the left and common people that are tweeting left and right, or at the intro of it saying, this guy grew up in a Mormon family, he's a right-wing shooter. That was a prominent, narrative
I never heard
it.
I don't think I saw any major publication say that he was a right-wing shooter.
I'm not saying major publications. I'm talking about...
I can't speak for all of the randos on Twitter that you guys love to obsess over, but no major publication said that he was a right-wing shooter, but there was a lot of information that if any of it had been any different, you guys would have been screaming it from the rooftops. If this guy came from a far-left libtarded household, if this guy guy came from like the school of like transgender, if this guy came from whatever else, then it would have been like every single thing you guys would have screeched. But it was kind of strange that it was like a shooter who seemed relatively normal. It was a white dude, came from seemed like a conservative household, a very conservative household, went to, you guys love it, he went to trade school, so he didn't have a chance to get fully radicalized in college. Like all of these things are true. Also, and now we're not talking about or hearing about much of it anymore because it seems like nothing came out to show that he was like the hardcore left-winger that they wanted him to be initially. So yeah, I mean, all I'm saying is that if we could argue, right? When I listened to Jimmy Kimmel's full statement, I immediately understood, what he was saying because it's true because I'd watched it. I'd watched conservatives do this. They were making statements about who the shooter was. Nancy Mace said the Democrats owned this before we knew anything about the shooter. It was crazy.
I know, but if you're going to sit here and critique the right's ability to run with headlines and run with stories like claiming that the shooter was trans and all these other things that we saw in the aftermath of the shooting, and you're going to say that like, well, like it's whatever because like I could kind of play the same game and be like, well, their audience just took the wrong message.
No,
right?
You can't play that game because when somebody says the Democrats own this, or when they say the shooter was probably part of Trans-Tifa, there's not much room for interpretation there. Number one. Number two, Jimmy Kimmel is a late-night talk show radio host. We're comparing that to the president, the vice president, sitting members of Congress, the head of the FBI.
I mean, do you not think that there's like some importance in the position that Jimmy Kimmel is in, though, with having a wide like audience of like left-wingers?
I would never admit that to a conservative who says there's no importance in anything that the president of the United States says.
Well, I will admit there is importance to the president of the United States.
Okay, then in that case, I would say
in mind,
I would say that Jimmy Kimmel probably could have been a bit clearer with his statement, so that you couldn't take that bad interpretation from it. But we're nowhere near the level of like this should be forcibly censored off all of everything, and he should be fired for it, considering the government traditionally never engages in that type of behavior. And if they did, Fox News wouldn't be on air.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with what you're saying for the most part, but there's like the highlights there where I just think like it's important that like misinformation is kind of not like spread around. And when like
that's fine, but we already said that the government can't do this, right?
With what?
Do anything about misinformation. Conservatives have just spent the past 5 years crying and screaming and bitching about YouTube banning people and Facebook banning people and X banning people and free speech has to be absolute. So now the government is going to... Also, this is, as much as conservatives hate to talk about it, this is also why decorum and the speech of your president is important, is because, for me, I'm a reasonable person. I'm an American citizen. When I see that my, conservatarded president has been screeching and screaming about people like Jimmy Kimmel and Steve Colbert and these other guys over and over again, and then I see him move to deplatform them when they say something, well, in my mind, I think any reasonable person go... kind of looks like government censorship, especially when he's pointing to 2 people that have gotten canceled that he politically hates, and he's calling for more next.
I mean, I kind of agree with you, but then, I mean, wouldn't you argue like the deplatforming of like Trump on Twitter would be a form of government censorship?
No.
Why not?
Because the government didn't push for that, Twitter did.
But like when it comes to like, and MSNBC, I'm not sure actually who Jimmy Kimmel was hosted by, I forgot, but like when they push for it, they're a private company, how can it be government censorship?
Because the reason why they pulled his show was because the head of the FCC was talking to all of these huge, not conglomerate, not corporate, what's the word I'm looking for? The huge syndication networks, Sinclair, and there was one other large one, saying that he might consider pulling their licenses or whatever if they continued to run Jimmy Kimmel's show.
Well, I mean, if they took the interpretation that I did, because he wasn't very careful with his wording, and they felt like he was spreading misinformation online, then I feel like it's justified for the FCC to intervene in the type of a situation, because I think misinformation crackdowns are something that we should push for.
I don't think you believe this
I
statement.
do.
So you would be okay with the government, would you be okay with the removing of the entirety of Fox News after the Dominion lawsuit stuff?
Certain portions of it, yeah.
The entirety, the whole thing would have to go. The whole network was
certain
complicit.
Hosts, for the record, certain hosts...
It was basically like 7 hosts and all of the Fox execs were all implicated in that lawsuit.
Certain hosts were fired, right? So we had Tucker Carlson.
Tucker left.
They left, but basically the implication is they were removed. I mean, if you cost a company like several $1 billion, the implication is that you were given a package to leave, right?
Maybe,
like
sure, maybe, yeah.
Well, I mean, that would be the implication.
But it's not like they announced this publicly. This is why he left, and he didn't have any accountability for that. He just left probably with the golden parachute and then has his own little media career now. But he was the only one. But there were like 6 other hosts, Pereiro, Sean Hannity, I don't remember. These kids have the wackiest fucking names. But there were so many of these hosts were implicated, and then there were a lot of the execs and senior execs that were implicated as well. Like when the misinformation is that pervasive on your network, it feels like half the network should go.
I guess to some point, I think I would be comfortable with certain chunks of Fox News being axed off or like completely removed, or hosts getting fired and replaced, because you can't really have proper dialogue with other people in a space that's like heavily filled with misinformation, which is why I feel so strongly about the Jimmy Kimmel example, because like if the FCC took the same opinion I did, which was that, hey, this kind of sounds like he's implying that the shooter was MAGA, and he's spreading this to his mass audience of like left-wingers, I think that's like harmful to the general discourse around it, because now you have people on Twitter, now you have people on Twitter going, oh, like Jimmy Kimmel said, like, you know, the right's trying to cover for one of their own. You know what I mean? It's like,
nobody was
yikes.
saying that on Twitter.
Well, I'm just, are we really?
Correct.
No one was saying that on Twitter.
No
one
on
on the
Twitter.
left was saying that.
No, it was the right saying that the left was saying that. Just like the one, who's the fucking white girl that they did the Nazi or whatever, with the jeans? Sydney Sweeney, yeah. Like when conservatives were saying that like Sydney Sweeney was being protested by all the liberal, nobody gave a fuck about that. No one on the liberal side cared about the Sydney Sweeney ads.
I mean, for the record, they did.
No.
I mean, you could look at okay, so this is an issue I have. So the way that you're separating out the like people on Twitter, and for the record, I've heard you say multiple times in different clips that Twitter is becoming more and more reality. Mm-hmm. And it's a little difficult for me to hear you try to separate yourself from Twitter all of a sudden during the middle of this conversation when I've heard you drone on and on and on again about how the right and the Twitter connection is causing negative like backlash to a lot of the political spectrum. The same thing's happening on the left, and like it's a slower burn, obviously, because I think the left is a bit more tame than a lot of right-wingers. But it is important to note that like that is a serious issue, and that's right in front of us. And if you're going to sit here and like try to distance yourself from that, I feel like I don't know how those two things can exist at the same time.
Yeah, so very easily. When I say that Twitter is becoming more and more like reality, what I'm saying is that the stuff on Twitter is having a greater consequence in reality. But the reason why it's having a greater consequence in reality is because Republicans are showing people left-wing Twitter like that represents reality. So when somebody tweets something, now a Republican in real life is altering his vote based on what conservatives have shown him exists on Twitter.
Okay, but when Jimmy Kimmel spreads something that can be deemed misinformation, heavily considered it by like a left-wing audience, it becomes like very difficult to kind of like not say that being spread and rotated
I understand
around.
What you're saying, but it's like it's hard for me, even if I were to buy into your framing completely, our own administration lies about so much stuff. It's hard for me to take them seriously when it comes to deplatforming Jimmy Kimmel.
I mean, do
you understand? Jimmy Kimmel was not deplatformed for misinformation.
I know, because a lot of right-wingers were arguing more on the side of the fact that
they just don't like him.
They don't like him.
Yeah.
Trump had a thing out for him.
They don't like him. So the whole conversation, even I've kind of bought into the red herring. If you've been having this conversation, he wasn't deplatformed for misinformation. He was deplatformed because Trump didn't like him.
I mean, you can argue that, right?
I think it's plainly obvious. Because if we were deplatforming for misinformation, there's a billion other people that would be deplatforming first.
I mean, you're someone that really likes direct statements, right? And you really like direct statements of someone saying X thing, and you kind of jump around to that to a lot of like defenses of your left-wing speeches and other things. But when you're doing that, like in hindsight, like when we're talking about like Republican speeches and Republican words, I find it like a little difficult to kind of believe that you can like run the same defense. You know
I absolutely could. So I don't like to do the individual statement thing. I like to look at things like holistically. I think that people that live in quotes, I think, are oftentimes liars. If you want to challenge holistically anything, so like earlier you made it sound as though I was saying Trump saying fight like hell was like the one line that I was using to attack him on that speech, when conservatives try to save it with the I know you'll go marching peacefully, although they misquote that as saying he told them to go marching peacefully. I pull that quote out because conservatives like to live in quotes, but that's a whole hour-long speech that he gives where he talks about how the election has been stolen. Mike Pence needs to help us steal it back. We're going to go and give all these congressmen the power and strength to steal it back.
Right.
We're going to go there and we're going to lose our country. Otherwise, here's more examples of all the voter fraud, half of which he'd already been told. Actually, I think every single example he'd already been told was untrue. Like, that was my issue with the speech. Now, generally, I can't get through all that with the conservatives because they don't even know that speech existed more than just one line.
But when you're harping on like specific words, and there's no specific words said by like we don't have like a written transcript of Donald Trump saying to the FCC, hey, listen, like, we have an opportunity here to get rid of Jimmy Kimmel.
They all are literally tweeting about it and talking about it openly.
Yeah, I know, but like, there's no like direct, like, you got what I'm saying? Like, there's
the FCC
no order
guy was
from the
literally
top
on a
down.
show, like talking about how, like, maybe we have to start looking at their licenses next. If they don't do something about this, and then Trump is truthing out, like, I support the removal of these guys. Like, how much more top down can it get?
I mean,
actually, here's a question. Can you think of a single thing in the entirety of the Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, or Joe Biden administration where a statement like that was made?
Like what?
That where the president of the United States is celebrating or advocating for the removal of like somebody on like a mainstream media network like that?
Not really.
Yeah, so it's unprecedented.
I mean, I'm not going to like disagree with the fact that it is unprecedented for Donald Trump to push for the removal of someone, right?
Okay.
If I'm going to like buy into the idea that it like is under his administration, right?
Well, no, wait. So I wouldn't make that argument normally because generally there's a level of separation between the president and his officers and his cabinet members and his different. However, this administration explicitly and specifically argues for the concept of the unitary executive theory.
Yes.
Yeah. So that separation doesn't exist theoretically, and we know that it doesn't exist in practice because Donald Trump literally orders around his cabinet members and tells them what he wants them to do. Okay. So now he has a much bigger buy-in to what's going on with all of them. We see him truthing out the same. Trump has never... See, the frustrating thing, too, is that when you're fighting a... I'm not saying you're necessarily... I don't know if you're conservative, but when conservatives are fighting against Democrats, and they're saying we think that Biden directed Merrick Garland, and it's there's no evidence of this at all. And they're like, what about the one leak story where Biden said that he was mad or whatever? And it's like, okay, yeah, he's allowed to be mad, but he's not directing him. It's like, well, what if that was an intentional story that was leaked in order to pressure Merrick Garland? Well, then that was the worst story ever because one, nothing bad happened to Merrick Garland, and two, Merrick Garland dragged his feet on fucking everything. Yeah. And the only thing that was fast out of that DOJ was the special prosecutor against Biden that came out with the her. Right. No, that wasn't her. That was Durham, I think, right? Durham, yeah. Or the her was for the FBI thing. So if Biden was trying to do that, it was horrible. There's no evidence of him even really trying to do that. But then on the Trump side, we've got Trump openly bragging constantly about controlling his administration to do everything, and he's truthing out constantly. It's like a fucking stream of consciousness from this guy's brain, and we see and you're like, well.
I mean, it's just that usually when it comes to democratic proceedings, right? I wouldn't expect the president to say, "I'm going to war if I ran," and then the chief of the Secretary of Defense replying underneath that thread, going, "Yes, Mr. President." So I feel like relying off of Twitter and Truth Social.
Wait, I don't understand what the reference was.
But this is what I'm going to. The fact of we're talking about the fact that there's implication that there's, because he's lampooning it all over fucking Twitter, that his FCC leader, his executive of the FCC, is looking at that and going, "Yes, President Trump." I feel like we don't do that for most things in general. We don't look at
we
Twitter
don't
comments
for most things in general because
I'm just saying for fine proof that an order. I feel like you have to have the president sitting there on his desk going, da 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 da, this executive order, da 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 da. I want this member of the head to do this and this and get rid of Jimmy Kimmel. I feel
you
you have
a written
to have
order
that
for all of that.
But then, I feel like we're just using Twitter threads.
We're using the speech of the president and then the actions of the people underneath him that are directly following the orders of his speech.
Okay. So to run this through, in a hypothetical, Donald Trump says, "I'm declaring war on Iran tomorrow for whatever reason," right? Okay. And his chief of Secretary of Defense replies to that. Is that suddenly official?
Is it suddenly official, or would he suddenly do it?
Yeah, would he suddenly do it, and then would you then say that Donald Trump told him to declare war? Based off of a Twitter thread.
Maybe not. It's hard because
But this is what I'm saying.
No, stop. It's difficult because for the commander in chief, we already have the authorized use of military force in the Middle East or whatever. So he kind of already has the authority to do that. Okay.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
If there's any other example, then it's different. I'm not saying that these things are happening because he's truthing it. I'm just saying that as you see him truth it, you say everything. We can see where everything is coming from.
Yeah, I just find it difficult to fully if there isn't a concrete link there. There is obviously overlap, right, between.
Do you
what
think
the
that
FCC
Donald Trump talked to his FCC head about pressuring them to get rid of licenses or whatever to do something about Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert?
I don't have any proof that he did, which is what I'm highlighting.
Okay, but then in that case, then you can't have any beliefs about anything in office ever because you have no direct communication proof of every single conversation that's ever happened for any member.
You have plenty of transcripts from the president. We have the, what the hell are they called? The National Archives and Congress.
Yeah, but you don't have a record of every single thing.
Almost everything. They literally take scraps. Joe Biden's scraps of notes that he wrote down.
Yeah, but we don't have every
inside his car
between him.
Are in the
we don't have every single communication between him and his inferior officers or his cabinet members for every single thing he's doing. We don't read all of those. We assume that the government is operating in a certain way.
I guess this is a good time to segue into the Supreme Court ruling stuff because
sure. Well, just real quick, Trump is truthing out to Bondi, you need to go after these political opponents, and now we have crazy indictments on Comey. Do you think that Trump told Bondi in personal meetings hey, you need to go after Comey?
I don't have any proof of that.
Okay, the thing. You know I that need, he told Comey.
I need transcripts, or I need to some degree
Okay, this is not a level of proof I think you would ever expect for anything else. But let's assume you do. Trump told Comey, you need to end the investigation into me, and then Comey didn't. He fired him.
Right.
You believe that happened, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've seen records of him engaging in what even Mueller said is probably obstruction of justice.
Yeah.
So obstructing an investigation. So why wouldn't we think that he's directing his attorney general to go after people when he's truthing out?
For the same reason, I wouldn't believe Mayor Garland was run by the Joe Biden administration to prosecute Trump.
But
because there's no direct proof. I want direct proof. I'm okay with agreeing if it did come out that he did pressure the FCC, and there's transcripts of it. And he's saying, "Listen, I hate Jimmy Kimmel. I really want him off air. Here's what I need you to do. I need you to say that you're going to strike the license and you're going to do this and this and pressure them to get him off. If that was the case, then yeah, I'd be like, okay, the executive kind of...
The Merrick Garland stuff is not a direct comparison because, like, we can imagine...
Then why bring it up?
What?
Then why bring it up? You brought it up earlier as a direct comparison.
What was I comparing it to?
Like the situation about like...
Oh, no, wait. I'm sorry. You're making the comparison, but I'm saying that the Merrick Garland thing wouldn't apply the same way here because we can imagine Merrick Garland taking the actions as the DOJ head that he is, that he needs to be taking these actions independent from Biden because we've got plenty of statements from all the parties involved saying Biden and Garland don't directly communicate with each other because it's improper. Biden himself believes that. He said as much. Merrick Garland believes that. He said as much. All the stuff that he's investigating, one, there was a special counsel that was appointed for this, so it wasn't even directly Garland's decision. A lot of it was for Jack Smith, right? And so we have all of this. We have no reason to believe it. We've got plenty of information for people saying it wouldn't happen, and we can totally conceive of the scenario like, well, why would this happen? Well, of course, he did a lot of crazy criminal shit. Like, it makes sense why this investigation happened. Meanwhile, an FCC head has never, to my knowledge, in the history of the United States, come out and said things like, we need to pull the licensure from these comedians that the president hates with no connection to anything the president is telling me whatsoever. And Donald Trump directs all of his other officers openly. He says it on Truth constantly. That's a pretty easy thing to believe. Donald Trump hasn't come out and denied. Donald Trump hasn't come out and said, oh, no, I would never, like, wouldn't you say that? Like, oh, I never talked to the FCC head about, like, threatening anybody or anything like that.
Yeah, but we know Donald Trump at this point just rolls with the punches at this point. Like, whatever is running headlines, whatever news, he doesn't really try to stake like a claim on anything because it kind of caters to
he'll
his base,
deny
right?
stuff if he thinks like he's denied the Epstein stuff a ton, right? He's not rolling with that.
Yeah.
So I feel like I feel like there's a ton of like, it's pretty obvious that he's directing his people around. I don't think he said you need to threaten to pull the light. He probably told, I don't even know if he would have talked to that. He probably talked to somebody and said we need whatever we can do to get these fuckers off the air or whatever. And then people bring him ideas like, what if we do this? We could threaten light. And they're like, yeah, fuck it. If you do that, yeah, do it.
It's just like my issue is I can conceptualize a lot of worlds, right? In the same way where like Joe Biden, yes, has degrees of separation between his investigation, but very easily like degrees of separation can be used to like obfuscate the fact of like where the orders are actually coming down, which is from the executive branch, right? So, and you can argue that like, well, he ran his administration differently. It doesn't mean that it couldn't happen, right? And my issue is like, I just want evidence, right? That's what kind of comes down to.
That standard of proof would never be achievable in any government because most of the time you're not going to have that direct communication. We can look at all the other actions. If Biden was controlling the DOJ, why was there a special prosecutor investigating his own document? We got more information about the Biden documents in his garage than we got about the Trump Mar-a-Lago stuff. Why would Biden preside over a special prosecutor that was investigating his son? Hunter Biden for how long? Like, what? Like, none of this makes sense if he's actually directing.
For the record, it's not like that I'm trying to stake a claim on whether or not Mayor Garland. I'm just highlighting the fact that like there is a lack of like evidence to confirm Republican beliefs on that. And when I'm a conservative, I look at it, I go, okay, I can't like get behind that in the same way I can't get behind the idea that the FCC chairman was like jumping in on this to fire because like I need like some proof.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so then just curious, so just one tangential claim, then we go to the next thing.
Okay.
You would never, ever, ever make the claim ever that Biden was ever senile, right? Because we have no 100% confirmation or proof of any kind of senility. A bad debate performance is not evidence of being senile.
I mean, I would say he's old, and old people forget stuff. I mean, I got a grandmother.
We're not talking about being old, we're talking about being senile.
Well, okay. I would say that he probably wasn't senile. I mean, he was able to maintain himself on stage. I do think he was old and like unfit in a lot of ways because of his age. It makes it difficult.
What do you mean by unfit? Now we're playing weasel word games. Is Donald Trump unfit because of his age? Because I think he's the same age now, right?
To some degree, yeah. I mean, Donald Trump's getting up there. You can see he's kind of getting sleepy with the auto pen stuff, and it's difficult, right? Like, I mean,
you have the same standard for both? Okay. All right. Next, what was the next thing?
Okay, so this is kind of going to segue off of the Mayor Garland stuff. We can segue right into the Supreme Court ruling. Supreme Court ruling clearly says that the president has immunity to criminal prosecution, right? That's kind of the general gist. And then it also gave him some loosely granted powers to run the executive very strongly, right? That's kind of what the general gist of the ruling. We agree on that? Just making sure we're on the same.
I would specify that a lot, but we can run with that for now.
Yeah. I don't want to sit here and like
sure. Go
into the court briefs or kill me. So the reason why I'm harping on this is because I don't think the Supreme Court's ruling was unjustified, right? I think it was completely justified based off of like previous precedent that was set by previous presidents, right? So when we look at the conduct of, we can go all the way back to Andrew Jackson, right? This man single-handedly pulled out all the funding from every single bank in the national bank, split them up into pet banks. So he literally redistributed finances that were set for the government, redistributed them, wasn't impeached, wasn't charged for anything whatsoever. And now we have people like you complaining about the fact that...
just curious, for Andrew Jackson, what would the crime he have committed been? Did he steal this money for himself personally?
Well, the big issue is that, one, Congress was not in session when he did this. So Congress couldn't even have an opinion on him.
What was the crime he committed?
Well, the crime for impeachment would have been the fact that, I guess you could argue embezzlement, you can argue a ton of things because
Well,
the fact
embezzlement,
that,
doesn't that mean you're personally stealing and mishandling the money? Like
yeah,
yourself?
because there's the pet banks that he put them in were well-known associates that were in his party and privileged and favored towards him. There's you could charge him of a bunch of things. So it's insane. It's insane to be able to take all the money and purposely bankrupt the national bank without
Something could be
Congress's
insane,
opinion.
but I don't know if it's a crime.
Yeah, but without Congress's approval, who is the coin purser, right?
Okay, why didn't
So we
Congress
have-
impeach him afterwards when they came back?
I think there wasn't enough seats that were against him to be able to properly follow through with the impeachment. They did publicly censure him, which is basically Congress's ability to condemn a sitting
Okay.
president. It's as close as you can get to an impeachment without being able to actually charge anyone. So it would be similar if the Democrats got together and said, we really disagreed that Donald Trump, the woman he assaulted, right, and lost a civil case to. They could publicly censor him about that and be like, this is really bad. It's a strong disapproval. But there's an example like that, and people complain about the way Trump's handling the money structure, right? With the way he's just letting funds drive in certain things. This has been well established as something that the president can
Well, to be
do.
clear, that's not why he was being criminally charged. He's being criminally charged for intentionally mishandling classified material, and then he was being criminally charged for an obstruction of our rights related to the trying to coup the government, basically.
Yeah, I'm just setting up previous situations where the president was not charged basically for being able to conduct duties under the executive branch, right? Because the Treasury is under his executive branch.
So one, I don't know enough details about the Andrew Jackson thing to fucking
Yeah.
say. So I have a feeling if I were to look into that, I feel like I would probably come away with a different understanding than how you're describing it. Number one. Number two, it doesn't sound like you've clearly enunciated crimes that he's committed, because criminal stuff is different than doing improper stuff procedurally. And then three, I mean, a more recent example I would say is, why did Ford pardon Nixon if the understanding was that Nixon could never be charged with a crime?
It's a really good question. Do you think a pardon is an admission of guilt?
Yes, I think it's how it's considered, yeah.
How do you feel about Biden pardoning his cabinet and his members in his house? Do you think that's an admission of guilt? Because you just said that a pardon is an admission of guilt.
That's generally how it's written. formally, that is how it's taken.
So do you think Biden's office committed crimes then?
I think they would have been charged with crimes.
Oh, no. You just said that a pardon is an admission of guilt, which
Yes.
is why it matters in the Ford case, Ford pardoning Nixon, because the reason why it shows that the president can be charged
Correct.
is because of the fact that the president is not immune technically,
Correct.
because why else would Ford cover for Nixon?
Yep.
In the same way, if a pardon is that heavily weighed and that implicit of a sentencing of guilt, how on earth could you argue the same case isn't for Biden pardoning his cabinet?
You're transposing the argument into something different. The question right now is whether or not somebody can be criminally charged for a thing. It seems like the understanding was Nixon could be criminally charged.
But
right?
where is that coming from?
Because that's what every reasonable person would assume. Nobody would assume the president of the United States is beyond criminal charges. Everybody would assume
Well,
that.
I mean, when I'm looking at the Andrew Jackson situation,
This
and then
is
you also did
so far back.
But
and
for the record, I can continue through, so we can look at the Trail of Tears that he did. Then we can move forward in
with
history.
these crimes.
Well, yeah, I would consider the forcible relocation of the Native Americans and attempted genocide of them to be a crime, especially
I know
since
this
they
is
were.
going to sound cold, but I guess in front of my audience, but a genocide is not a crime. You can't be charged in the United States for that as a crime if your function as commander in chief or whatever, right? If that's what you're doing.
I mean,
It's
if you want
shitty
to
and
argue that they were citizens of the United States, which they were since we, annexed their land, right? They were citizens of the United States. Forcibly relocating your own citizens is definitely against the Quartering Act, number one, if we want to go through the Constitution. But you could go bit by bit, ripping apart the way it's not even equal treatment, right? All those other things. And then to go further in history, we look at FDR and the internment camps, which are concentration camps for the record, completely not charged for literally stripping U.S. citizens of their own rights. He was not impeached for violating their freedom of speech, for violating their right to autonomy, for violating, they're literally being quartered by soldiers in their own home. They're breaking multiple constitutional amendments.
Sure. So no, they're not. Okay. So for the internment camp stuff, that was literally, I'm pretty sure, law passed by Congress granting the power to the
It was not a law passed by Congress.
Wasn't that from the
Nope. It was an
Alien Enemies
executive
Act?
order. It was an executive
I'm
order
sure
that
he
came
did
top down.
the executive order ordering it, but the authority to do that for sure came from the
Nope.
Alien Enemies Act.
It might have come from the Alien Enemies Act, but the main point is that it was an executive order used.
An executive order is just the president saying they're going to do a thing. He can't create new laws. Well, until Trump, you can't create new laws with an executive order. It's just a direction for your branch.
To some degree,
the power that he was drawing from came from the Alien Enemies Act. That's where he got the authority to do that.
To some degree, you can create new laws with
No.
I mean, for the record, Andrew Jackson wrote an executive order to separate the funds from the banks.
I don't know. If
Okay,
this was
I won't
Andrew
harp on
Jackson
it.
hour
Okay,
from
okay,
5,000 years ago, I can't. Yeah.
For the record,
That-
I'm just highlighting like a trail, throughout
yeah,
US history of
but
the.
now I know that you just brought up the internment camp stuff completely incorrectly because there is a specific law passed by Congress to allow him to do that. So I don't know if the Andrew Jackson.
Okay, for the record, the Alien Enemies Act doesn't say you can intern hundreds of thousands of Japanese citizens. It doesn't say you can intern hundreds of thousands of people.
This granted wide powers to the president because the whole. Keep in mind these emergency powers. There was another emergency powers act, but the idea was like we're being invaded by another country, and as a part of that either invasion or we're actively at war with them, the president has like huge authority to do. That's why they invoked it for the Venezuelan stuff, and they use it to deport Venezuelans with a totally different structure of due process.
Yeah, but putting people in concentration camps is very different than just using the Alien Enemies Act to deport people. Right? Like it's your own U.S. citizens, and like it's an executive order too. That's the other important thing.
It was an act from Congress. I encourage you to.
I mean, for the
look into
record, the Alien Enemies Act was used to help bolster the executive order, right? It was the thing that was used as a permission to. But the executive, it's not like the Alien Enemies Act says, well, we can put a bunch of people in concentration camps. It doesn't say that.
I think it gives the president the ability for people from enemy countries, nationalities, or I don't know if it included ethnicity or not, but nationalities were allowed to, like, without like due process, to be like detained in like times of war and stuff. That was a huge power that was granted via that. Because it was supposed to be, the idea was like, let's say Mexico invades us, right now. Like, does the president have the ability to say, okay, well, hold on, if you're Mexican, like, you got to chill or whatever, right? It's kind of shitty, but I mean, like, that would be an emergency power granted to the president if you are of that nationality. But I'm just saying that, like, these were founded in law, whether we think it's extreme or not. Why did Nixon accept the pardon from Ford unless he thought he could be charged with a crime? Because he thought he could be charged with a crime. When you talk about like Biden being pardoned, his son, or you talk about like the J6 committee being pardoned, they accepted those pardons because they thought they were going to be charged with crimes from the Republicans.
Okay, but the main reason why Ford pardoning Nixon matters, right, is because it implies that the president can be criminally charged, correct?
Yes.
Okay. If that is the case, right, and you said it was an admission of guilt, right?
I'm saying that people see pardons, that's a separate thing, but people generally see pardons as an admission of guilt, sure.
Okay, but if you're not arguing that it's an admission of guilt, then like the pardon was basically meaningless.
No,
right?
the
pardon,
important thing about the pardon is that you can't be charged with that crime because you're pardoned from it. You double jeopardy, right? You can't.
Right.
Yeah.
So wait, what I'm saying is like the pardon itself, right?
Yes.
When the president issues it, right, and it prevents that person from being charged from that crime.
Correct.
Right. That's like the implication, right? So when it comes to like Ford pardoning Nixon, right? And that was in reference to Watergate, right? I don't see how like anyone can issue pardons for anything, right? Like it doesn't mean that the person actually committed the crime, right? So like if they didn't actually commit the crime, then like a pardon is just a meaningless piece of paper. Like the president could pardon anyone, right? And like it doesn't actually have like.
I think it's a wide thing. Yeah, the president.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So like how can you imply that like the president could be charged based off the pardon if there isn't actually any like merit to like what a pardon means?
Well, what a pardon, you keep going to this, like, does it mean you're guilty or innocent or whatever? The pardon means that the federal government can't charge you with that crime.
Yeah, but then the reason why I'm bringing up the Biden situation is why would Biden pardon his family members if he wasn't worried that they could be charged with crimes?
Because he was worried they were going to be charged with crimes.
Okay, so in the Nixon's case, he got pardoned because he was worried he could be charged with crimes.
Yes.
Right, but that doesn't mean he would actually be like capable of committing those, like it doesn't mean that they actually are like real, right? That's what we're acknowledging.
I'm just saying that he was acting, and everybody in the country was under the assumption, and all of our investigative bodies were under the assumption that the president could be charged with crimes, and everybody was acting in that way. Like that was the assumption. Like of course the president could be charged with crimes.
Okay, but like I'm looking at all these examples throughout history where the
And
president
Andrew
was
Jackson.
not charged. Well, not just Andrew Jackson. I'm just saying like with FDR and stuff. Like these were cases that were brought before the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court ruled that it is okay, basically, for the president to...
Yeah, but when the Supreme Court is bringing these cases, what they're challenging is, my guess is, I don't know the particular case, but my guess is the challenge for these cases was if the executive has the power to perform these acts, not trying to hold him personally, criminally liable for them.
Okay. I get where you're... Okay.
And Trump's stuff wasn't like this would be a totally different conversation if we were talking about Trump committed some act as president doing a thing or whatever. He was doing things for his personal beneficial gain. That was the issue. They were crimes that he was personally committing for his own personal enrichment, not like actions as his role as president, like he tries to say or like the Supreme Court tried to say.
Okay. And when you're talking about those actions, right? So the whole argument for immunity stemmed from the idea that like whatever the president does under the executive branch, right, is something that basically can't be charged criminally. That's that's the conclusion they came to, right? And that's like something that has been upheld in court after court after court, right? Like the
What do you mean?
president.
We just got this like 3 or 4, like 3 years. Was this 2022 or 2023?
2023.
Yeah. So what do you mean? It's been upheld time. It's like a brand
I mean,
new
I'm just saying,
ruling.
like historically, like throughout the history of president, like the president has acted in time and time again in ways that have broken or bended the laws of Congress and not been charged basically with those crimes, right? And like,
where he's personally done a criminal act that he could be charged with a crime with. I just don't think so.
I mean, like do you not think that like the actions taken? And by the way, later on, the Supreme Court ruled that what FDR did was wrong.
Sure.
Right. So,
But
like,
even if he was wrong, that doesn't mean he's criminally liable.
okay. So you don't think the president would be criminally liable for putting through an unconstitutional executive order that puts people in concentration camps?
No.
Why not? You
Because
don't. So just to get this cleared up, if the president put through an executive order, like Donald Trump just decides to drone strike Joe Biden for whatever reason, if he puts through that executive order, he can't be criminally held responsible for that, right?
Well, according to the current Supreme Court, he can't be.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But I think he should be, because I would argue in that role, unless he had intelligence or something saying otherwise, right? It seems like he's just like paying somebody, or he's carrying out like a hit. He's murdering somebody.
Yeah.
Now, for instance, if it was the case privately that we find out, that for JFK and the internment camps or whatever, where he, he's like, oh, there's like these 300 Asian guys that I fucking hate, and I'm gonna do this like internment camp thing because I hate these motherfuckers because they beat me in Pi
So
Gow
there
or
has
whatever.
to be like some level of intent to it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Or?
Well, intention is a huge. It's half the criminal thing, right? The actus reus and the mens rea, right?
Well, if Trump just goes through and does something that can't be deemed as intention, because you can't necessarily be in the president's head at all times.
No, we are absolutely in people's heads. That's how we charge every crime.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. Like, if it comes down to intention, right? And we know the intention of like certain people, like FDR and other people, were to like respond negatively to these groups of people. Like,
for what reason, though? Personally, because they thought it was in the best interest of the country. Because you would have to make an argument that he's like personally trying to kidnap and detain people because he personally hates them or whatever, right? But he's clearly acting in his role as president. Then seems really hard. I don't know what crime you would charge him with. But for Donald Trump, it's very obvious that he wasn't acting in any of his roles as president. Half the fucking shit that was happening was his own personal goonies. Fucking Giuliani, Sidney Powell, these weren't even members of the White House or anything, right? He's very clearly not acting in his capacity as president. And all of the orders that he's issuing, he's telling people to lie and stuff for his own personal gain. These aren't presidential actions that he's doing maybe improperly. These are criminal acts that he's doing personally for personal gain.
yeah, but I'm just saying like these things have been like ruled in like future rulings to be like criminal, basically, and like nothing comes.
They're not ruled criminal. If a thing is made illegal, you can't do a thing. That doesn't make it criminal. A criminal thing is like there are criminal statutes made up. Criminal statutes mean that you can be charged with a crime where you kind of a deprivation of rights and everything. They're not procedural civil things where people can just be sued for money or you did an improper act or you're censured or whatever. But like,
I guess I'm just like highlighting the fact that like the president has gone about multiple things in like kind of unconstitutional ways or ways that the Supreme Court has deemed
sure, but unconstitutional doesn't mean criminal.
Well, what I'm highlighting here is like the president goes about unconstitutional things, and a lot of the things that happened during the J6 stuff, you would argue are unconstitutional, right? Like the whole ignoring of the Electoral Count Act, right? Like these are things that violate.
I wouldn't say that was unconstitutional. I would say he was breaking the law.
Why would he be breaking the law?
Because he was criminally breaking. Well, because the ECA was a law, and he was telling people to break it.
Okay.
So that's conspiracy, to break the law. So actually breaking. Well, they didn't actually, I guess, because Pence didn't. But
okay, but so I know the big issue with the Break It Electoral Count Act is the fact that the votes were divvied up to Mike Pence at the end, and he was supposed to like throw them out or send it back to the House, right? That's the general gist of
kind of. It's just how you count the electoral votes, yeah.
Yeah. So if that's kind of the case, right? Why did Democrats go and push through legislation to basically, like, if it was something illegal, why did they put in legislation to make it illegal after it happened?
I don't know. It was stupid. They shouldn't have, because these stupid arguments are used. Because Donald Trump knew he was breaking the law. It's in every single email that Eastman and Chesbrough are sending out. They know that they're breaking the law. Every time you hear a conservative...
I know, but like if the Democrats push through legislation like this, it clearly shows that even in their estimates, like, he wasn't breaking the law. It was an ambiguous law, right? With like the way...
No, it wasn't ambiguous. That's why they knew they were breaking it.
Yeah, but I'm saying you can say that, but like why did Democrats then go through
because they wanted to tighten up the language a little bit, but they didn't need to, but they thought they could, but...
So we just think like the entire Democratic House and Senate just thought they needed to tighten up language on a bill.
Yeah, it was
there was
a virtue signal.
Like you get an entire like mass of Democratic, like I just find it hard to believe. Like you get a whole
You
massive
can find that
Democratic
hard to
vote.
believe, but like Donald Trump and all of his people, all of them said they were going to be breaking the law. They all acknowledged they were going to be breaking the law. Pence was under the impression they would be breaking the law. That's why he said no. Barr quit over Trump asking to break. Every single person in their circle all acknowledged that they would be departing from the ECA, and their claim was that it was unconstitutional, which is the code word for them for breaking the law. All of them said that's what they were going to do, and they very clearly, like, I know the Democrats appended like 2 sentences or whatever stupid shit because they thought it made it more rock solid, but like he would break it the same way as it is now. He would have done the same thing. Like he was clearly, you acknowledge that they said that we are going to break the law because we think it's unconstitutional.
I mean, he may have said that multiple times. And I
Okay,
did
so then
see-
they thought he was breaking the law, right?
So, but if you think you're breaking the law, like, does that magically make it that there's a law in place that you're breaking?
Yes. Like, for instance, if an FBI officer tells me that he's selling me some weed, and I go, oh, yeah, I want to buy that weed, but it's not real weed, I'm still breaking the law because I'm trying to buy illicit drugs. I'm trying to buy narcotics.
Okay, I get what you're saying there, but you understand what I'm saying. Like, if you think that, like, freedom of speech is breaking the law for whatever reason in your head, and then you go and you commit an act, right, that violates that law, that freedom of speech doesn't exist, then,
Oh,
like,
you're saying if he thinks he's breaking the law, but they're not actually breaking the law?
Yeah.
Then theoretically, I mean, if it was adjudicated as such, then you could say, then fine, that he wasn't breaking the law. But even his own people, what was the name of the guy? It wasn't Chesbrough. It was the guy who literally said that if we went to the Supreme Court, I think Rosen was arguing this guy. If you went to the Supreme Court, you know that you would lose on this. I think it might have been Eastman. And initially Eastman was like, well, yeah, we'd probably lose like 2-7. And then he was like, oh yeah, we'd probably lose 9-0. But the idea is that once Trump was in office, there's no way the Supreme Court is going to unseat the president because he said that they would kick it back because of the political questions and the major questions doctrine. So that's like a whole ass scheme to break a law. No, the Supreme Court won't probably overturn it because it's too big of a question. And then to carry on like ordinary business, like, it doesn't get much more clear from that, I think, from start to finish of what the goal was. And it would have, if you read the ECA, like they clearly wanted to depart from what the ECA says.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts, Tristan?
I guess, like, can I briefly touch on manufacturing?
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to?
Sure.
Okay. I kind of.
Well, do you find it troubling that the president of the United States could now order a hit on a U.S. citizen and the Supreme Court has said that he could never be charged with a crime for that?
I mean, that kind of happened with Obama, right? With the wedding and the drone strike.
So, but the difference was is that one, that person was working with a foreign terrorist organization, right? FTO had the designation, number one. And number two, Obama was worried about breaking the law. So Obama literally went to his DOJ, the Office of Legal Counsel, and they had like a memo written up for whether or not they thought this was in the authority of the president to do or not to do. And like he consulted his like legal professionals that were provided to him in the White House, and then they did the strike, right?
Well, okay, to preface that, it is very important to note that the AUMF gives broad designation for what the president can designate as a terrorist organization and what it can respond with the military. The president's always had the capability, technically, to assassinate anyone in the country by designating them as terrorists because of the broad designation and the fact that it gives the president complete total control to deploy as many troops as he wants, wherever he wants. That's why we had troops in, like, I believe it was like all over the place in the Middle East that Congress wasn't even aware of. And like
for the authorization of use of middle.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, and it applies here, even in state, right? Like the president's had that power before Congress.
I understand, and theoretically, like I agree with that. I think we probably, to some extent, like the president needs broad executive power to do that. But I'm saying that, like right now, the Supreme Court has said that Donald Trump could personally just order an assassination on a guy that he doesn't like.
So I'm saying that was already the case.
It wasn't the case.
That was the case. On
nobody. Then why did Obama go to the OLC, and was it Holder that wrote the memo? Why did he literally ask them for an analysis on whether or not he thought he had the justification to do the strike or not?
Because by the end of the day, determined that he did have the justification to do the strike, which is what I'm highlighting. You have the justification as a president. If you deem someone a terrorist threat under the AUMF,
yes,
you can look at the wording specifically. So if Donald Trump or Joe Biden had designated like MAGA as a terroristic threat, he could technically deploy troops without Congress's permission and circumvent the legal system and kill
Well, it wouldn't be circumventing, but we would have to know that he's doing it for that purpose and not just because he personally hates somebody.
I mean, he just has to designate Joe Biden like publicly as like it's that easy. The AUMF's like it gives very broad justification.
You think that if the president right now were to designate, if he were to say, "Oh, I'm designating every single Democrat in Congress as a terrorist," and kill them all prior to this stupid immunity ruling, you think everybody in the U.S. would be like, "Oh yeah, he has the legal authority to do that"?
I mean, technically, yeah. The AUMF gives that broad of a jurisdiction. You can look at it. It was a very questionable.
I haven't read the text, but I'll bet you $20 right now that if I were to go and read that law, it has some type of characteristics for how you would define a foreign. It doesn't say anybody you want, LeMayo. It probably uses words like, who the president is deemed a threat to the interests of the United States, or who the whatever intelligence services have delivered like represents like a reasonable threat to whatever bullshit.
Yeah, it does have wording like that, but the problem is it's so broad that you can technically
That's
rope
in TV
anyone.
shows. When people say the wording is broad, that's a TV show term. It's broad. Usually, when stuff seems broad, usually the legal terminology is used exists in like other bills or other statutes, or there's a common legal understanding for how it's used, and it's not just like used to randomly kill or do anything. Like that's not typically how it works. Like.
I mean, it was how we had so many troops like deployed in places that Congress was aware of. Like, it lets you circumvent like the ability to appeal to like. It's like you're saying like, oh, well, you could just like appeal to actually.
But it doesn't limit the ability to do that because
that's what I'm saying. It's so open-ended, like the way it's worded.
Congress totally has oversight. You know how I know this? Because what are you talking about?
They didn't have oversight. You
what
can
is,
look
what,
at
what
you
is
can
the
look at the
authorization?
findings.
What is the authorization for the use of military force? It's a bill from Congress.
Yeah, they gave the president the ability.
So they can take it away. They could pass more legislation to amend it.
And they probably should. But I'm saying.
Sure, but I'm just saying it's weird to say that the
what does that have to do with anything?
It's weird to say the Congress has oversight or can't change this when the Congress could literally just change that bill if they wanted to, right?
When I say oversight, I'm referring to the fact that we had troops deployed in places that Congress was not aware of. They had to do a hearing on it when they found out this, and the hearing determined, oh, we have all these troops all over in all these different countries running different missions, and we have no fucking idea about it, and this is just the way the AUMF works. Like, it's very broad. The president has always had the ability to do it, and just because it's like,
I'm just saying they can change the law if they want. Number one, number two.
But like your question was that like to re-round it back to reset it because we'll go off on ADHD rants. The question mainly was like, doesn't it scare me that the president has the ability to like murder someone of impartiality?
Sure.
Right.
And you're saying that they have broad use under this law because of the language. And I'm saying that like my guess
the president's always had the capability to do that.
Yeah, but the president's never used it to just like kill random U.S. citizens in the United States. Except for.
Okay, but like just because like someone doesn't use something doesn't mean they don't have the capability under the like jurisdiction to do something.
Well, I mean, that's one of the legal things. That's kind of one of the things that we look at to see like what a common understanding. Like if you're going back and you're doing an analysis of some original law, you look and see how people acted around it at the time. It's like, what do we think people's understanding of it was?
Yeah.
Right. So, and if the understanding, like if you start doing a whole bunch of new shit with the law that no one's ever seen before, people are probably going to challenge on like, was this like the intention of the law? And then you have like a whole Supreme Court battle over it. But so I guess like broadly, hold on, I'm sorry, before the manufacturing, so are you okay, you think the President of the United States can never commit a crime while he's President of the United States? You think that's a good reading, a fair reading, what the framers would have wanted? It's a fair way to evaluate the President?
You get into like tougher territories there because here's the problem. So number one, the framers intended that, and this is the way it was passed originally, the opposing party's leader would always be the vice president. That was overturned in the 12th Amendment. So originally the framers, in a situation where let's say this whole thing just happened January 6th and the voter thing, the president technically should have the opposing party as his VP, meaning that this wouldn't ever be like a conflict of interest. Now, of course, this was overturned, right, eventually, so now it became a major problem, right, because now you could have the same VP and the same party running. So when you have a situation like that, it becomes very clear to me that like the framers did intend this. It's just that we removed the check and balance on the fact that it would be a different opposing party that would always be the VP. And when you remove
why would that even matter to them? It's like the VP can overrule the president on like an assassination or something, no?
Well, I'm talking about in reference to like the
president being charged with a crime.
Yes, in charge of a crime when it comes to like the committees and stuff, right? So like when it comes to the Electoral Count Act, right? We're talking about the president breaking a law there. Right, that you say it's a law, but it was originally intended for the framers to be like the president was allowed to have these types of things, right? And like we whittle away at certain areas that create new issues of criminality that weren't determined to be criminal by the framers, is what I'm saying.
So the framers would have said the president of the United States could mug a man outside and he would be beyond criminal charges.
I mean, to some degree, yeah. I mean, just when you have to look at their rulings, right? When you have to look at their rulings and the way that they treated previous presidents, administrations, and what they did.
By the drafting the Constitution, when we just had a rebellion against a king,
yes,
and we're trying to create a federal government, and
yes,
part of the creation of that federal government is a heavy restraint on the federal government's ability to do stuff, because the states were all worried about a stronger federal government emerging that would be tyrannical, that they would have, and they have one strong, fiery executive who is elected by the people and not the Congress. Yeah. That they would have thought that that man could be beyond criminal prosecution?
I mean, there's impeachment for that, right? That would be
impeachment is very different.
Impeachment
is very different.
Now,
impeachment exists explicitly not for that.
Well, impeachment exists for the removal of the president when he's being when he's basically derelict of duty, right?
Sure,
he's not following through on Congress's orders.
Not for crimes.
I know, but there's like there's like some more like you're like arguing in such a gray area, right? Because
Well,
like
it's
technically
not, but
breaking
no,
the
to be
Constitution
clear,
isn't outright a
before
law.
Trump, this wasn't a gray area to anybody. And even for you, I don't know how old you are, but like prior to Trump, if I would have asked you, do you think the president should be able to like commit a crime and get away with it and no criminal? You would immediately say, well, obviously not. Of course, that's really stupid. He would be the only person in the entire United States that has that kind of that immunity. Nobody has immunity from criminal prosecution. It's not a real thing, except for diplomats, I think, sometimes.
Well, I mean, the issue
foreign
there is when we're like arguing back and forth about this, right? If I did sit down and do the research, I would come to like a similar conclusion, even about Trump's existence. That I mean, it looks historically like the president gets away with a lot of bullshit, and you can argue like, oh, well, it's not criminally charged. He never really got criminally charged. Well, I think it's horrendous, like morally, to like intern a bunch of people in concentration camps and like hold guns to their head and say, like, if you leave, we're going to shoot you.
It's horrendous morally to cheat on your partner, but that doesn't make it a crime. It doesn't mean it's a criminally prosecutable thing.
Yeah, but this is like the weird area that like
It's not a weird area. We're in a very specific area. Can you be charged with a crime if you're the president? I feel like the answer is obviously yes. Everybody's always operated that way, and we would always have that assumption. I would feel really weird. Like, I could be wrong, but in the is it called a monarchical? Is it a monarchical republic where you have like the parliament,
like an aristocracy, and
you have the parliament, and you have the king still, and the king like does the laws and everything? I could be wrong, but I think even in that time, I think the king could be charged with a crime. Like, I don't think the king was above criminal prosecution there. I could be wrong on that, but I think that even the king could be charged with crimes at the time America was founded and everything.
Yeah, but I think the issue is more during that time, the king's more of like a figurehead. Like he's lost a lot of power to some degree. It depends on which governments you're
time of
talking
the Revolution
about.
in the United States?
Well, okay, it depends on which governments we're talking about, and like we could really get nitty-gritty there, but let's not do that.
Okay. All right. Okay. I think it's crazy, the idea that the United States of America, that had a revolutionary war against a king that we thought wasn't giving us good representation, that we have now granted the ability for the president of the United States to commit crimes to personally benefit himself, and we have somehow come to this understanding that he should be immune from all criminal prosecution. Before Trump, I don't think anybody in the country would have ever signed off on that. But post-Trump, because of partisanship, I think some people have.
I mean, every single time we've proven that he can be civilly charged, right? So, like, there's plenty of cases of presidents being civilly charged. So FDR got civilly charged for the internment camps. He had to pay out reparations to the U.S. government. There's plenty of examples of, like, civil charges.
Is that true?
Yeah, we gave $20,000 to every single surviving.
Hold on, we or JFK personally?
Well, the U.S. government.
Yeah, that's
right,
a way different thing, because presidents can't be held civilly liable. That was the whole point of the Nixon v. Fitzgerald case that Roberts so ignorantly relied on, because it had to do with civil matters and not criminal matters. But that case said that you can't sue the president because you lose your job. I think it was an FAA person or whatever.
Yeah, in that type of situation, I'm talking about like civilly sued from like while you're in office, right? Like Donald Trump got civilly sued for his rape case on office, right? That happened, right? Like while he was in office, from my understanding, or at least the investigation.
Yeah, you can't sue the president while he's like in his role as president, which makes sense. Like if the president does fires a bunch of people from government, you can't sue him for you losing your job. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, the criminal stuff is crazy.
The big issue I'm kind of pushing towards is like just historically, it looks like the president gets away with a lot.
Not crimes.
Yeah, I know, but like when you're breaking the Constitution and we're saying
that's not a crime.
I know, but it's not like a chargeable quote unquote offense.
That's what we're talking about. That's important.
It's just. It's a little difficult when like morally reprehensible things are being done, but aren't quote unquote.
But there's different
crimes,
procedures for addressing those things. If we think that there's a thing that we want to be stronger in the Constitution, or whatever, we can pass different legislation, or we can change it. We can amend the Constitution to change a thing. And so for criminal laws, we've got things that we as the public have decided these are crimes. We have an interest in citizens not committing them. But now we're saying the president is beyond that.
But that's what I'm saying. So like if we're due like account in Congress having the right and responsibility to patch in these gaps, that's what the Democrats did after January 6th, right? They patched in the gap. That was an issue there. And like, what are we? I know it's tough to kind of budge on, but like, they did indeed like concede to some degree.
That doesn't mean
it was legal.
Doesn't mean they conceded. They tried. All of Trump's people acknowledged that it was illegal.
Well, I'm
we
saying,
we should try to touch on manufacturing a little bit before we move on to our next.
Manufacturing.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I just to clarify, I'm not trying to come off as a bad faith. I hope I'm not. I'm trying to get like really into the nitty gritty details because that's how I prefer to like run conversations, debates. I hope you don't think I'm coming off as bad faith.
No, I don't necessarily do. I just think if you want to get into the nitty gritty detail, we're doing the immunity thing right now. The immunity rule is just crazy.
Yeah,
like nobody. I don't. Yeah. Okay. Manufacturing.
It has its issues. I won't disagree with that. So manufacturing, I think it's really important to return manufacturing to the United States of America.
When you say return manufacturing, you're saying
in its
that
full capacity. I'm talking World War II.
Okay, well, because we manufacture more than we have in all of history of the United States? Do we want even more manufacturing in the U.S.? When you say bring
Yes.
it back, you mean
I'm
bring
talking
back
about-
like base manufacturing or whatever?
Yeah, I mean returning our factories back to the United States of America. So, for example, I would like to highlight in particular the troublesome areas for me personally are the pharmaceuticals that are mass manufactured over in China. We had who knows how many countless of people die because they couldn't basically acquire N95 masks. We couldn't acquire ventilators because a lot of that stuff is manufactured and produced in China, and they are going to pressure and prefer their own country over the United States of America. And who knows how many countless people died because of that. That is not good, and that's because of the liberal global like trade system that we have set up where like everyone's supposed to quote unquote benefit from each other, but that's not really how it works, because when pandemics happen, when wars happen, people clamp down on resources. We had this with Russia and Europe. There's this whole issue where Russia is like literally like Europe doesn't want to jump into anything with supplying Ukraine weapons because of the whole Russian like gas line, right, and all these other issues, right? So the reason I'm bringing this up in manufacturing is like returning manufacturing to the United States, which Trump is doing through the tariffs, ultimately secures more protection around our pharmaceutical industry, around things that we need when things go to shit. Here's the
Okay,
reason.
can I ask a couple of basic questions? Do you think that if we bring when I say when I talk about productivity
Yes.
as a term in economics, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Familiar.
If we do you think it would be good if I said for us to bring back manufacturing jobs, we would necessarily be bleeding off higher productivity jobs to other countries in the world in favor of lower productivity jobs in the United States of America? Do you think that would be a worthy trade?
Yes and no, because an important thing to note is the fact that if we do bring back manufacturing factories here, the majority of it's going to be automated, right? Like, we can't deny that. And with automation coming through, when you bring back a lot of our manufacturing hubs here, we can produce a lot of things for dirt cheap rates that compete with Chinese slave labor, right? Like, compete with these like pennies that people are making for like Temu and other
hold
things.
on. So, then the second thing is, so we can't compete, right? Because if we were, we would already be doing it. We wouldn't need exorbitant tariffs to do it, right?
Well, I mean, here's the problem. You can't deny that, well, you've said this many times, I agree with you to some degree. The U.S. has greatly benefited from the current global trade economy, right?
Yeah.
Like, we gain a lot of surplus in our economy. We have very strong value in our currency. The problem is we're so intertwined with all these other countries that when we do start pulling ourselves away over concerns of manufacturing like pharmaceuticals, which I think you would agree with me, it's probably not good that if we have a pandemic in the United States that China can just clamp down on their pharmaceutical product, either to A, screw us over because they can, or B, if they don't have any malicious intent, for their own people. That is a very dangerous situation to present, and when we're so entwined with China, it becomes very difficult because I don't see a way we can really distance ourselves from them because everyone has their own business interests, right? You talk about this a lot.
Sure. So I'm curious, are you American or Canadian?
American.
Okay. I only asked this because I only learned this, I think, like a year or two ago. I didn't know this.
Yeah.
In Canada, how many Canadians in the house tonight? Oh my God. Okay. Damn. It's not that far away. Jesus. So in Canada,
I love our Canadians, for the record. I love them.
the provinces can set a lot of their own trade, like interstate, inside the country. Like
We do some of that here, too.
No, we absolutely don't.
Not at all. We don't have any ability for states to conduct interstate commerce.
No, they have to. Everything has to be reciprocated. Like a state couldn't make its own currency. I don't think that.
Well,
like
yeah, no, okay. Yeah,
like
I'm
a
talking
state,
about
like California couldn't say
my
we're
bad.
not selling.
I misunderstood what you're talking about.
Okay,
with
sure.
trade
They can't
there.
like
your currencies. Yeah. No, that's a
well, not
yeah.
just currency, but like I don't think California can say we don't ship to Arkansas or we have preferential trade deals with New York.
Yes, no, that was established. But like I thought you meant trade in general. I was like, no, they can like trade between states like that.
Oh, they can trade, yeah.
Yeah,
but I think in Canada, like I think like a province could say, we're going to have a different trade relationship with Alberta than we have with Calgary or Newfoundland or whatever these fake fucking places are, right?
Yes.
Right. They have the ability to do that. Do you think in the United States, do you think that we should allow the states to be able to conduct their own trade relationships with each other? Like, should California be able to give preferential trade to New York and bar like Louisiana, Georgia, Alabama if they wanted to?
You get into really dangerous territory with like laws like that when it comes to like preferential treatment between states, because then you could have purposely like beneficial states, let's say New York, or for whatever reason West Virginia. It's never going to happen, but let's say they have an economic boom and they like start seceding ahead, and then other states around them, because they don't want people to leave from their state to contribute to the economy or any numerous reasons, they could very easily gang up and like cripple that state by not like supplying it of certain things. So that would be a very big issue. So I kind of agree with that, like them having full freedom like that.
Sure. Okay. So walk me through this, because I would agree with exactly what you would say, but then I would just extend that one level, and I would say I feel like countries all being self-interested in a really hardcore way would be really negative, because now if anything hits, all of these guys could be working together and going to try to fuck over the United States. They're not going to send us their best and brightest students, their best and brightest engineers. They're going to hoard all of that for themselves, and they're all going to fuck the U.S. over in the next natural disaster or world pandemic or whatever, because they know that the U.S. is like self-interested in that way.
This my issue is they already did this, right? China has shown that they literally hoarded.
So the reason why we didn't have all those N95 masks and not insulators, not inebriators, ventilators, is because we had no leadership to think that it was a serious problem and try to get this stuff ahead of time.
Well, for the record, he did to some degree, at least at the beginning of his administration, think it was a serious problem. Otherwise, he wouldn't have thrown trillions of dollars behind Operation Warp Speed. So clearly, he thought COVID was a bad problem.
But I'm saying that if Donald Trump, as soon as the WHO...
He did think it was a problem, not probably for the American people, he's kind of selfish,
sure,
but for his economy.
I'm saying that as soon as the United States started to take shit seriously, we got the shit we needed, right? Like, I think the United States can spin up manufacturing for a lot of stuff if we need to, depending on the thing. But for N95s in the United States, I feel like we must be able to do that, right?
Yeah, but like we do lack a lot of those facilities to be able to produce these things, right? And like the issue is like when we're relying on China for a lot of this like type of stuff, it becomes an issue when we come with supply. And yes, the U.S. can amount to that, but we shouldn't have that delayed of response and that issue. Even if it's like, let's say, like we were able to rebuild and like scale up our factories to produce N95s in a month.
Sure.
There should have never been that month in the first place taken too, because those people are dying. Our citizens are dying. Our people are dying too.
So like, I think...
Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, it shouldn't be...
So I understand what you're saying, and I think
for key industries, let me say this, for key industries, I don't think we should be making Temu socks. Like that's ridiculous.
Okay, so if that's the position you want to take, then I would say that you've completely abandoned Trump's position, and that's more or less, that could be my position. If somebody wants to say there are certain types of industries that we should protect, like stuff related to agriculture, like food, animal ag, stuff related to defense, that we should have some protection on these industries, because it would be pretty silly if we imported 100% of our jet fuel or rocket fuel from China, if that's like our next big military opponent. Then I would say, like, of course.
There's examples like that are time again.
But that's not bringing back manufacturing in any capacity to like go back to the glory days. That's just saying that we should be protectionist around some national defense industries. That I think makes sense. But you recognize that's a total departure from Trump's tariffs.
Well, if I wanted to further expand on that position, I think it's important even to return all types of manufacturing to the United States, right? Because with certain advents in automation and the way automation has progressed so much, like it's becoming easier and easier for machines to take on tasks of humans. So it's easier and easier for the United States to produce goods and compete with China as a manufacturing power, right? Which is important, because what won us World War I and World War II? It was the fact that the United States could shift over consumer industries into production of military products, right? We're looking at the Ukraine war right now. Why do they not have shells? Why are they struggling? Why did we have to sell so much of our old stockpile instead of our new one? Well, A, you could look at the obvious reason, which is the fact that like we don't want to give them our new toys. But B, but what else? We need to be able to rapidly reproduce our like equipment and stuff. Like we don't have the capacity here.
But how did we win World War II against Japan?
By literally shifting over our manufacturing facilities for consumer goods to military.
Yeah, but what was the thing that ended the war?
We went to total war economy.
It happened twice.
With what? Oh, well, the bombs. But
so that's a high
for the record,
productivity.
That's not why.
True. But that was a stated reason. It played into the fear factor in the world, okay? And it was probably a good thing. But
for the record, the Japanese generals and the king, not the king, the
emperor.
The emperor literally said they could nuke us 4 to 5 more times and we wouldn't care. Like the government was so bad that
I understand this. They were worried about the Soviet.
I'm just saying, like,
they were worried about the Russians were going to come.
I have a feeling you're going to argue that our specialized industries were like what helped us win the war.
I think our specialized industries are really important. Yes.
Yes, I'm not denying that they aren't important.
But I don't think that we can have it all. I think that sometimes, like, I make fun of socialists and uber progressives when they think that we could have free healthcare with the same level of access and the same level of benefits for every single person, and there's no resource strain. And conservatives make fun of them too for saying that. But then when we talk about manufacturing, we think that we could magically manufacture every single thing in the world that we import from every other country in the world, that we replace the entire world's working population with our automated factories. And my question is, realistically, what do you think we have to give up to do that? Do you think we can do that at no cost?
I mean, to some degree.
To some degree, we can do that at no cost.
To some degree.
I would call it a fantastic delusion.
I'm not saying like I think we can go full autocracy. There's some things.
No, but you're saying we do like 95%?
No, well, a certain percentage. Obviously, that's what I'm advocating for, and that's what I believe like the overall administration's position is, that they should be pushing more towards more and more of our stuff being produced here. And when you're so entwined with other countries and business ventures, right? Let's say the majority of our manufacturers over in China or American capitalists, right? They benefit directly from that trade. They're not going to agree with the fact when Donald Trump says, hey, we want to return manufacturing to the States. They're going to look at him like he's crazy because they're economically benefiting from it. The only way to really pull out the rug from a system like that is to mass tariff all these other countries, to cause harm on businesses, to force them to rebuild manufacturing.
So that's a chain of logic that I would say breaks at every single link, okay? That I understand the argument, but I think it breaks almost at every single link.
In what way?
In all the ways. But so like my general overarching question, or my general overarching thing looking at this, right? And then we can go link by link if you want. But like in the entire world, every other person wants to be the U.S. economy. Yes. We have one of the highest productivity workforces in the world. We have some of the highest technological capabilities of anybody in the world. We have some of the highest, like, in terms of research and development. Like, everybody, like, China is not saying, like, oh my God, I wish we could have even more manufacturing, right? China is saying, like, we're stealing all of your intellectual property because we want to make the shit that you make, right? Some countries have gotten trapped in, like, the manufacturing, like, the sinkhole, like Germany has had issues of, like, trying to escape this, right? And then when you look at, like, what's available in the U.S. in terms of, like, say, our educational institutions that also, like, add on a lot of productivity workers, like, everybody in the world comes to the United States for this.
Here's the problem.
So my question is, like, so the U.S. has, like, one of the highest productivity workforces. We do some of the highest tech and everything.
Yes,
and we import all of our, like, manufactured stuff from other people. So much so that, like, lefties in the U.S. and all the other countries sometimes like, fuck you guys, like, you're taking advantage of us when you do this. In what world where the U.S. is, like, obliterating everybody economically, technologically, intellectually, in terms of, like, the students and everything else, that we're looking at them, we're like, God, fuck, these guys are taking advantage of us. I want to be more like them. Like, what, if you can name one other country that we should try to be more like who are we even looking at?
I mean, it's tough because America charts its own course, which is something I strongly believe. So
America does its own what?
America charts its own course, like historically. Like we've always been different from every other country in the world. I strongly believe that, right? I'm very patriotic, very conservative.
But we don't just chart we lead, right? Like people want to be more like us in a lot of ways.
Yeah, because of the directions we take. And when we look at the state of the world right now.
So then why would we go backwards?
Well, because you have to look at the critical issues that we're facing around the world. We can't properly supply Ukraine. Why? Because we don't have the capability we used to during World War II.
No, that's not true. We can't properly supply Ukraine right now because we don't have the political will to do so.
I mean, to some degree, yes and no, because under the Joe Biden administration, we struggled to supply them with shells. Europe struggled to supply them.
But we also didn't have the political will.
I mean, it's just the truth, though. We did not have the and we probably still don't have the manufacturing capacity to supply a war. And then if you look at what's happening with Israel, too, it split our manufacturing even harder. And that's because we have such a weak manufacturing base here.
So the manufacturing in the U.S. has been higher than it's ever been. Our output has been higher than it's been in all of U.S. history, number one.
Yeah, but not when it comes to conventional...
Yeah, because we don't have the political will for it. But if we wanted to...
But we did under the Biden administration.
No, we didn't. We literally had to fight under whether or not the immigration bill was going to be tied to the Ukraine funding, and all the Republicans decided that they hated Ukraine because Donald Trump said it. Like we were so divided under Biden on how we were going to support Ukraine.
Okay.
We never had the combined political will to say like this is a project that we're going to invest in. We're going to start like manufacturing this direction. We're going to head.
We couldn't because we don't have the facilities here, which is what I'm highlighting. You can't say that we could have just bound together. Like we did have the political will behind it. You can't have political will. It takes 5 to 10 years, which is, one of the issues with a lot of economists that said with Trump's tariff plan.
Even if we were to assume that it would take that long to make sure, let's assume that what you're saying is true, which, by the way, we wouldn't have to be the ones to make them. We could get our allies, when you have friends in the world, we could even make them, right? And then, like, be a part of that supply chain or just, like, commanding that or subsidizing it or whatever, right? Because we had friends all over the world that could also make stuff as well, so they were part of our, in a way, connected economy as well. But let's say that it's like, oh, God, it's 5 to 10 years where we could make shells for Ukraine. How many generations would it take to manufacture every single thing that we're importing then? Because that sounds like that would be like a multi-generational project to even approach all of the imports we get from everybody else around the world.
Are you talking about like military-wise or
everything-wise? What Trump wants to do, what you're advocating for?
I mean, when you think about like the economic benefit of like, let's assume robotics continues on the path it's going, AI is continuing on the path, automation is incredibly beneficial. If we're able to massively just output things as cheap as possible to other countries without having to sacrifice human capital, which is incredibly important when it comes to like, building, your next military development, right? That is incredibly beneficial to the United States because now Europe, our ally, doesn't have to rely on China for manufacturing their goods. Any of our allies, India, does not have to rely on China for manufacturing their products. They can come to the United States for manufacturing, and we get to strengthen and consolidate our power around our other nations, which is the benefit of returning our manufacturing.
But we don't have the ability to manufacture that much stuff.
That's what I'm saying. That's what we have to return. That's why the tariffs force our factories overseas, right?
So why don't we do it now?
What do you mean?
Why don't companies just make it now or start making the factories to do it now without the tariffs? Why wouldn't they have done it before?
Because they directly benefit from like the financial returns that they're getting from like having their factories over on cheap production there, and
Correct.
there's no incentives right now for the government. Like if I'm a factory owner in China, I'm producing tons of goods. There's no fucking incentive for me to just pack up my entire shop, move it over to the States. That's fucking insane,
Correct.
right?
Because it would be way more expensive.
Yes, but that's because there's already buy-in to the Chinese government, right?
And
They've
because
already,
it's cheaper.
Yeah, but when you're hosting our manufacturing hubs in a foreign country that's adversarial to us and is like literally planning invasions to our ally that could potentially drag us into a war like Taiwan, that is miserable and horrible for like the future of...
Doesn't it give us more leverage to like negotiate like a non-violent confrontation? Like wouldn't China be worried about losing all of the U.S. foreign direct investment and everything else?
No, because last time this happened, because they are a different government, they're not a free trade government, they just clamped down on any of their billionaires that tried to leave the country and flee the United States. We saw multiple of them disappear. All their banks, they froze American assets and companies.
They would lose the foreign direct investment from the U.S. and if we have strong allies, our allies too. Also, we don't have to just import from China. Other people can make stuff for us as well.
Yeah, I mean, I do think India is on the way to start producing things, but like I'm saying, I think it would be good for the United States to return like their manufacturing base because we want to be able to also, like during World War II and World War I, be able to rapidly convert these factories to wartime economy. The reason why the United States won the war in World War II wasn't because of the fact that we produced the best tanks. Our tanks were dog shit. But for every 1 to 2 Panzers, there's 10 more American A1 tanks pulling up. You can't win a war when you can outproduce your enemy, and that's what happened time and time again during World War II and World War I.
The reason why our production was so good, though, is because we also weren't like in a war-torn Europe, and we were basically untouched, and we were able to deploy our entire population towards like manufacturing.
Yeah, and that war-torn Europe, like when Britain's industries were destroyed by Luftwaffe bombing 24/7, who was sending the tanks over? Who had the mass supply of tanks that were able to produce here because of our manufacturing?
Yeah.
Like, this is the thing, right? Like, we need our manufacturing hub here.
But are you willing, like, here's the issue. I'm going to repeat this.
Okay.
Are you willing to pay the economic cost in doing so? Because you seem to think that we could bring all of our manufacturing back here and more or less the standard of life would be the same. You need to understand that if we were to bring it all here, I'm not going to say that's impossible. We could do it, but it's going to come at a substantial cost to our standard of living. Everything is going to be more expensive. Cars are going to be 2x, 3x, 4x the cost. Houses are going to be more expensive.
But why would it be more expensive?
Because now that we're manufacturing it here, we're necessarily going to be paying a higher cost. American wages are higher. The factories are going to be more capital intensive. Whatever else we have to.
Well, like I said, with advancements in automation, and I've heard you argue many times that a lot of the jobs that we're going to benefit from the manufacturing process are just going to be replaced by automation in the first place. So that cuts down on that's a huge.
By the time that becomes economically viable to do it, the investment will be there for it. We don't need a tariff. The reason why you tariff is because you're saying we know that it's cheaper to make it over there, so now we're going to artificially make it more expensive, so that now it's cheaper to make it here. But it's only cheaper to make it here because you've artificially, whatever 1.5x the price of what it would cost to buy from over there.
Well, there's a scare though with the fact of Chinese ability to like mass manufacture, right? Like the way that they control what our exports and imports are, because we're so closely tied to them, because with the policy we push for China after the fall of the USSR is to really integrate them in the U.S. economy, that when they turn hostile to us, we're now crippling ourselves in many ways.
I don't think we're crippled. We still
a couple more minutes there,
right?
Guys. I hate to break this up. This is awesome. Just a couple more minutes.
Sure, yeah. I mean, like China, am I wrong? Isn't China like 13 or 14 or 15% of our total imports market? Like we import from other people as well.
Yes, we do. I'm just saying, like, when you have important sectors, like...
No, that's not the argument you're making. If you want to talk about important sectors, I can agree with you there, but you're talking about the entire... everything. We should be an autarky, basically, or as close as possible to one. But that necessarily hurts our relationship with every other country on the planet. It necessarily is going to lower our standard of living, unless you think we can just magically produce everything here at no additional cost, in which case I would have to ask, why aren't companies doing it already? There's a reason why those tariffs have to go into place.
Well, I mean, I argued the reason why those companies aren't doing it in the first place is because they already have too much investment and capital tied up in foreign countries. You're not just going to pick up your entire production and run it back here, even if, let's say...
I understand it, but I'm saying if the cost is changing initially, right, it's going to eventually balance out, right? Nobody's going to wait for it to be, oh God, like now it's all changing, now we're going to move. If it's going in that direction, if you're saying that manufacturing is heading in that direction, like a capital investment is largely, depending on what you're talking about, it's like a one-time big investment thing. At some point, you're going to get your return on investment is going to be cheaper for your marginal cost of production to produce here, even if you've already got an investment over there. That will change over time on its own. If you're massively speeding it up with a tariff, or if you're massively forcing it to happen with a tariff, then it's implying that there's no way that the United States could manufacture stuff here. Every single autarky experiment across the planet has failed. What was the country that tried? Was it Argentina China that tried to make their own Blackberries? Anybody remember this econ article a long time ago? It was.
You could look at Germany trying to produce their own oil too. It went
Sure, like
horribly wrong, but
I mean, that's a natural resource extract from the ground. Unless
I'm just saying, like they tried to become very independent from the global.
Sure, I'm just saying that like everything
structure.
that we do with trading with other countries, it strengthens those countries, it strengthens our relationship with those countries, it strengthens our consumer market, it gives us a higher standard of living. Like there are so many positive like knock-on effects from this that to throw all of that away, and then especially when Trump has the audacity to claim that the reason why he can do this is because the U.S. has the best consumer market. We have the best consumer market because we have the highest productivity workforce, because we import so much like lower level stuff from other countries that allows our workers to fixate and specialize on higher productivity stuff. So the idea that he's saying we have the hottest market ever, yeah, because we have free trade, which he's trying to destroy, and we've got a high productivity workforce that he wants to trade for a low productivity one. So it's like, yeah, you're talking about all these amazing things we have, but we have them because we're a certain way, and you want to go back to the other way.
I guess.
Final thought there, Tristan.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I guess the one really big highlight I would push forward is the fact of like you talked about the theft of our intellectual property. That's happening because we have our manufacturing over in China. They are catching up to us in their specializations because we're manufacturing in China. If we pulled back a fair bit, even like 90% of our stuff, they wouldn't have so much mobility to capitalize on our benefits.
Sure. Final retort, and then he can get the final retort. The only reason, again, why I don't like those arguments is because let's say, for instance, that was the goal, right? If China was the goal, then why not just target China and strengthen your relationship with everybody else? Like, if China was the enemy, then Mexico and Canada should be our best friends. But we're making enemies out of everybody.
I mean, you do have to look at the fact that Trump has come down on certain tariff policies after certain imports were. He did, right? Like it is absurd some of the rates and tariff policies. But he
I
did
understand
come
what
down.
you're saying, but it's
Yeah.
like this guy stopped like raping his friend, so now they're like more chill. Like the terrorists came out of nowhere. They were a big slap in the face to the entire fucking planet. He held up a chart with other terrorists from other countries that was a fucking lie. That chart was just a lie, right? You acknowledge that was a lie.
Yeah,
The
no,
president-
I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm
So
not
the president of the United States lied to the entire world and lied to every other person when he
Yeah.
was saying in his own country that these were the tariff rates that everyone else on us. And it's like, well, he took some of them down.
Well, I mean, when like the problem is like you highlight the fact that the United States is this amazing global like superpower, and the fact that we rely on our trade so much, and the fact that we import. That's one of the benefits that everyone is so reliant on us, right? That like we're able to strong arm other countries into trade deals, right? But what I'm highlighting here is, from my perspective, we have to be very concerned about, and this is where the conservative angle comes in, about the negatives that come from that, right? The theft of our intellectual property. China is catching up to us militarily and intellectually. You can look at all the manufacturing, right? We go through this list. There are serious negative trade-offs that do have to be addressed by moving a lot of our industries over, and the only way you can really force these companies where there's no investment capital here for it, right? Because they don't want to, because it's cheaper over there and they have benefits to it, and they already have investments there. It would take them 5 to 10 years probably even to like pick up all their stuff and just be like, okay, we can move it back now that we made a return. You want to speed that up because there's concerns about Chinese dominance.
You're assuming it'll happen, and also none of this is being passed legally, so it's all just going to go away with the next president, so nobody's going to even make that investment in the United States, and we're destroying our relationships with everybody else too. So like, if the goal was to target China, we're going about it in possibly the worst way we could ever do it, ever.
All right, Tristan, let everyone know where they can come to debate you or find you on social media. Do you have a channel?
I was actually planning on starting up one after this. I told my dad if I actually did get the invite out here, I would do it, so I don't have anything yet.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Tristan Zapp, put your hands together. He had a really good run. Awesome. And keep it going for our next debater, Fred. Fred, you're up. It's your turn, Fred. Put your hands together. Keep clapping. Keep clapping. Get the blood pumping. All right. Nice and close to the mic, Fred.
Okay.
All right, what's up? What's up?
My whole thesis stems from the idea that I've heard you say, paraphrasing, that Trump's unserious about immigration. And I believe that that's probably the only thing that we can really consider him serious on. And a lot of the authoritarianism that we're seeing right now is downstream from that.
Okay, I feel like to him, the immigration seriousness is just a thing. He thinks that that's a topic that he can throw at his base to like rile them up. So that's what he uses that for. But I don't think he's had a serious take on figuring out like actual solutions to the immigration problem.
Well,
Like,
that in itself means that it's true. It's working. If he's throwing it at his base and he's riling him up, he's getting exactly what he wants.
yeah, but he's not solving the immigration problem. He's just making everybody mad about the immigration problem.
I don't know. I mean, if we take a look at the numbers recently, border crossings are down 93% from 120,000 last year. So obviously, those encounters on the southwest border are down, and we haven't had any catch and releases for the last 4 months.
Sure. So even if I assume both of those sets of numbers are true, Donald Trump tells me that 25 million illegals came in under Biden. And if that's the case, we haven't deported like even a micro fraction of that. And I don't think anything's going to happen within the next 3 years to change that. So it would seem to be a case that this thing that was such a massive problem that it was destroying the country and every conservative was concerned about, that they've all seemed to kind of have forgotten about, makes me feel like it was never a real problem and he's not serious about dealing with it.
Well, I don't know if they'd forgotten about it. Him getting it canceled with the bipartisan border bill was a strategic move to make sure that he was betting that it would get him a win in an election year so that he could enforce executive action this year.
Yeah, but I'm saying that's not like doing much to get rid of all of the illegals that he said came in. Like if it was such a huge problem, it doesn't seem like he's done much. Like I agree with you that he made immigration a big issue because he thought it was a popular issue for him, but I don't think that he's treating it like as a serious issue that he wants to get actual serious stuff done. I think it's all showmanship to like further entrench his authoritarianism or whatever.
Well, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. If border crossings are down, I think July last year it was 60 some odd thousand. This year it's 24,000 for July of the same month. He's drastically cutting encounters down at the border, and that's deterring new people from coming in.
Sure, but if somebody has like 5 inches of a 6-inch knife stuck in my back, and then somebody else trades hands and they hold it, but they're not pulling the knife out, like I'm still dying. If 25 million illegals came in under Biden and Trump stopped all of the inflow, that's fine, but we apparently 3x or 2x the amount of illegals in this country, and he's done basically nothing about it, which makes me think he's not treating it with any level of seriousness. It's all like a meme to him.
Well, in country, apprehensions are up as well. So he's ramped up enforcement. I believe Biden had 64,000 arrests or something along that in the last fiscal year. And Trump's had that in his first 50 days, or I'm sorry, the first 100 days. So he's matched the arrests that Biden had all last year with the numbers just the first 100 days of his presidency. So he's obviously ramping up his local enforcement.
Sure, how many arrests was that?
I believe it was 62,000.
Okay, and you said that was in his first 100 days?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll be generous and I will assume that, we'll say that it's not like, chances are it was higher in the very beginning because you go after the easy targets and then it's going to get harder, but let's assume that it's not. If we say that it was, we'll say 60,000 in the first 100 days, right? You said around 60,000. You're president for 4 years, which is what, like 1,200 and 240 is like 1,440 days. So we'll say about 1,400 days. Okay, so 14 times 60,000 is like 600,000 plus 240,000 is like, if I'm not fucking this up, like we're at less than like even, or I lost myself there. About like 1 million people deported. Like what? Like assuming that the same rate stays. I'm just showing like by the numbers. Like by the very end, he's deported 1/25 of everybody that came in under Biden. And conservatives have been telling us that there's been a horrible immigration crisis prior to this. So that's like to me, that's what I'm saying is a deeply unserious position to have. Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay, so not
Even
only
if
is
he
he
5x'd his deportation rates, 5x them, that would be maybe around 5 million out of 25 million that have come in illegally.
the deterrence factor is also an issue as
But
well.
that's for people
because,
coming in.
Well, not only from people coming in, people self-deporting as well.
Yeah, but we
I
don't
believe
have
the
like
number.
10 million self-deporters, right?
Well, the numbers in the immigrant population are down at least 2% so far for the first part of his term. So,
And the immigrant population?
yeah, it's trending down right now.
Does that include legal immigrants?
That I'm not sure of. No.
Okay, because that would be really bad, right? Because they probably are the ones that, I imagine a legal immigrant is probably the one with the most money, most like ability to be here, right? If they're paying and going through the process legally and all of that, like these are going to be selected for like high performers, right? Generally speaking.
Yeah, generally speaking, yeah.
Yeah. So if those people are leaving, that's probably really bad.
Well, we can't say for sure that it's going to be those people specifically, or it's going to be illegal immigrants. It's just the immigrant population in general is going down. So he is having an effect. And for every million people that are subtracted from the illegal population, we're saving billions of dollars.
I don't think that's necessarily true, but like, I don't think it's going to be millions even by the end of his 4 years. And remember, the number that he keeps giving for Biden, assuming he hasn't increased it again, was 25 million illegals came in.
Okay, so he has an unhealthy relationship with Fox News where he feeds into it and it feeds into him. So I don't really trust him when it comes to numbers. But the fact of the matter is, when it comes to the encounters that we have documented encounters under Biden that were astronomical, and he has lowered them significantly. So
I know we keep going back to the encounters, but the 25 million that are here.
do we know, okay, realistically, do we know how many illegal undocumented immigrants actually are here in the United States?
I think prior to Biden, the estimate was usually around 12 to 13 million.
Okay. So why are we going to assume that just because Trump said it, it is now 25 million?
Well, but now you see the problem is you're asking me to trust his border numbers and you're asking me to trust his deportation numbers when he's already shown a propensity to lie about other numbers.
Well, I'm asking you to trust the institutions' reporting of the numbers and not what's coming out of Trump's mouth.
Sure,
because
but
the institutions under Trump are still reporting.
Well, are they? I think it's hard to trust after the jobs numbers came out and he fired the one lady. I think it was the head of the whatever is it? It's not CBP. That's Customs and Border Patrol. But the jobs department person, right? Or him trying to pressure and fire people who are part of the governor board for the Federal Reserve Board, or him like explicitly talking to all of his cabinet members, telling them what they need to say or do. Like for instance, this is an unfortunate thing, and I know this is a hyper-partisan issue, so it's hard to find any common ground. But like, if let's say that the shooter. Here's a big problem. Let's say that the shooter of Charlie Kirk, let's say that we find tomorrow, he did have another Discord account. It's a crazy Antifa leftist, insane account or whatever. Personally, I don't know if I could ever believe it now, maybe, but it's hard because here's what I know, and these are undeniable facts. The President of the United States and I think Kash Patel and other members of Congress, they all staked a position on the identity of the shooter and his ideology before they knew anything about it. So why would I trust these same people who can't even admit the results of the 2020 election to come out and release information showing that they were wrong about something? Even if all of the institutions, even if they were still all perfectly functioning, which I think there's good cause now, especially with Kash Patel basically admitting that they fired people who were involved in like the Mar-a-Lago raid, or they fired FBI members who weren't loyal to Trump, whatever the fuck that means. Like even the statements they've made have almost, I wouldn't say irreparably damaged, but around certain issues, like I just don't know if I can take it seriously, because would they really contradict themselves? Like, do you feel like Trump would release something and say, I'm wrong, I made a mistake? I don't even know if he's ever uttered those words in his entire life.
Well, no, I don't believe that Trump would, but his administration, while it's less than the first term, has kind of gone against him when it comes to certain things.
Can you name one thing and one person?
Bondi saying that she would release the Epstein files, and...
But like, I feel like that's the worst example, because I feel like she initially thought that they maybe had some things there because she's kind of retarded. I don't know why. But then Trump obviously now, I think we have a lot of information now saying that the FBI was marking stuff that where Trump's name might have come up, and now we also have it not being released, and now all of them are defending the idea of not releasing anything more about it, so much so that like Mike Johnson is like not seating an elected person in the House for almost a month now, I think. So it seems like they are all following him, right? Like, what? Like, tell me. Okay, so Pam Bondi said, in the Southern District of New York, we found a whole bunch of boxes of stuff in the fucking burn bags or whatever the fuck else. The burn bags might have been some Obama shit, I don't know. But we found a bunch of stuff, and then we're going to release it. And then I'm hearing from people in the FBI and everything that they were showing stuff that involved Trump, and they were marking stuff for him. And now we're hearing, I think she just said today or yesterday, actually there was no client list. What am I supposed to believe on that? Like, if I'm just like an impartial observer.
I would say you go with the FBI on that one generally.
So a big issue that I have with the FBI is, was this Bongino or Kash Patel, or it might have been both? At least one of these guys, Bongino I think is the deputy FBI director, right under Kash Patel, was literally on a podcast with, I don't know if this was a Joe Rogan one or a Tim Pool one, but he's literally saying like, I've got friends in the CIA and they've told me that they've seen all the Epstein stuff and they know all the information and everybody knows it's there. He said that. So now, and it was really awkward because it reminded me of fucking Hassan on Jenk's show when he had to apologize for the 9/11 comments. When I'm seeing Dan Bongo Balls and fucking Buggy Eye Patel are sitting here on some mainstream media network, they're saying, we've looked at it all, there are no Epstein files, all of it got released. Like, what am I supposed to believe there? That's like a hard one. Like, I don't know, like, how am I supposed to make sense of that? They must have lied at one point, and if they've lied at one point, like, fuck, well, when am I supposed to believe them? Especially when it's always, right, they're always taking the politically advantageous position, right? Because that's an easy way to read it all. So how can I think they're in a truth-telling position?
Well, generally speaking, if they're on a podcast and they're talking to the base, maybe not, but if they're under oath, generally we should be able to trust them. So,
I mean, so I would say, okay, so this is where the conspiracy part of my brain would kick in. Okay, so I would say, what if they just lie under oath? Okay, and then the retort would be, well, I mean, like, are they going to lie under oath? That would be a crime. They could be in big trouble. And then, you know, Destiny, you've said in the past that conspiracies like this involve a lot of moving parts. There would have to be a lot of stuff in order to make something like that work. And then my counter retort would usually be to I would concede the argument and say, yeah, this probably wouldn't work. But I have like so many examples of Donald Trump literally pardoning people who were literally obstructing investigations, who were doing so out of loyalty to him. Like Roger Stone was an example of that. Like every cabinet member that he had, every person that he's had the ability to pardon, he's pardoned all the Gen 6ers, all of his past, like Manafort, Stone, Flynn, Bannon. So
but if you get into that train of thought that anybody can lie under oath, it can go very well for the Democrats as well. So
what do you mean?
If they can lie under oath, how can we trust anything that they say? How could we trust the January 6th committee that anything that they testified to was accurate at all?
Because when they were, one is because there's a treasure trove of information out there that they released about it, and two, I think when they were conducting all of that stuff, they weren't expecting to get pardoned by Biden.
Well, I don't think they were expecting to get pardoned by Trump either, the January 6ers themselves, so I don't...
Well, like, I could argue that they weren't expecting that. The amount of charity, though, because one, Trump has literally pardoned people around him who committed crimes and obstructed, right? Roger Stone told another witness how to cooperate. He said he wouldn't squeal on the president, and he was pardoned. And then two, like at rallies in the past, Donald Trump has said, like, yeah, you know, beat that guy up, like, I'll pay for your lawyer, ha ha ha. And then three, like a lot of the people that went to January 6th, Trump was literally there giving them a speech. Like, I'm sure that they thought that they were marching for a righteous cause and that Trump would, you know, help them and be there for them. And I think they all acted accordingly. I think that's why they were willing to go as far as they did and why they committed the crazy stuff that they did with the expectation that they would get pardoned. And if I were to say that like all of those pieces were there and then they did do that, and then they did get pardoned, like it seems like a really easy A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Like it's like all directly there.
Well, and then you could lay out the same trail then for the January 6th committee. You could say that it was all there to point the finger at Trump, to get him under the gun, and then everyone kind of knew under the table that he was going to pardon him at the end of his term anyways.
Well, I don't think anybody knew that because one, that was an exceptional thing that I don't think has ever been done in U.S. history. Two, there are no emails or comments about that ever. None of them ever floated that idea. There were a lot of comments from like Giuliani and Eastman who were literally talking about, can you put me on the pardon list on the way out from the Trump admin because they thought that they were going to get charged with crimes. And then three, it's harder to talk about, this is kind of an unfair thing, I don't know if you're going to say it right now, but like it's unfair when you talk about Republicans and Democrats because I think Republicans, like when it's like, well, isn't it like unfair that a lot of them are criminally targeted? It's like, well, yeah, but also a lot of them like were openly and flagrantly violating the law. So like if I look at like how the J6 committee started, for instance, Pelosi, I think, was the one who was putting it together. Like she invited Republicans to add 5 members to that committee. And 3 of the 5 that, I don't think it was Johnson at the time. No, it was, I wish I could remember, McCarthy, was it? 3 of the 5 members that were floated, Pelosi said, well, we can't accept these 3 of 5 because they're directly implicated. I think it was Jim Jordan and a couple other guys. They're directly implicated in a lot of these investigations. But like, we'll take the 2 that you suggest and you can suggest 3 other ones. And then the Republicans said, no, we're not going to participate. So the 2 that they managed to find are now universally hated by Republicans. It was Kinzinger, or however you pronounce it, and Cheney, and now they hate them. But like the Republicans chose not to participate, and then now that they've, you know, now in the future they're like, oh, well, of course it was rigged. There were no Republicans. Like, well, yeah, you guys chose not to participate. But we can also look through all the J6 stuff. Like there's like thousands and thousands of pages of deposition. There's tons of video. The official report is 960 pages long, and like none of it is seriously contested. Like people will say like it was biased. It's like, okay, well, what part was wrong? Like there's nothing that was like made up, right? Do you like when you, I don't know what your position is on it, but like, I know you've probably heard it said a lot that the J6 committee was biased or partisan, but like, is there a single fact that you can think of that like is incorrect that they reported on or they had their committees on, or?
No, not really when it comes to J6.
Sure.
I'm just saying that the whole idea of, well, you can't trust them even if they're under oath, it does swing both ways, and it does lead to a breakdown in us being able to communicate across the aisle.
I agree, but I'm saying that like I think that when Biden did these pardons, I think it was an exceptional measure for an exceptional time, shown against like a political enemy that was willing to break whatever boundaries, borders they could to go to do political prosecutions of other people. I think that if we were arguing moral high grounds, I mean, I would say the Republican Party's in hell when it comes to moral high grounds at this point. But like, if we were arguing moral high grounds, there might have been a gotcha that Republicans could have gotten if Trump could have made it through even one fucking year without doing a political prosecution. But as soon as Trump came in, I would argue Biden was fully vindicated because Trump literally starts targeting law firms with executive orders. He starts pulling security clearances and Secret Service personnel for people he doesn't like. He starts pulling funding from like universities that he doesn't like. And then now we've got officially indictments against Comey for like the most wild, ridiculous, stupid shit ever. And it looks like political prosecutions. And I don't think this, I know this. Donald Trump explicitly verbally said, I want to go after all these J6 committee guys, but Biden pardoned them all. It's like, okay, well, it kind of seems like then maybe that was the play, even though it is a breakdown of norms, but it's not, I wouldn't argue that like Biden was breaking norms. I would argue that Biden was responding to a severe breakdown in norms.
Okay, well, I mean, I can give you that, but kind of got off topic. Focused.
It's bad to think that people can lie under oath, but I think that all the Republicans believe right now that they are above the law. I don't think the Democrats necessarily operate in the same way. You can see that with the fact that even during the Senate, the confirmation hearings, I don't know, I'm sure at least one did, but I don't remember a single confirmed member of the cabinet agreeing that Trump lost the 2020 election. That's crazy.
Well, did he?
Yeah? I think he did. I think he did.
Yeah, just a little bit, so.
But
I've also heard in response to that recently, there's been some talk amongst Democratic talking heads that they're calling into question the 2024 numbers. So it's something that happens on both sides now.
Yeah, but the difference is that the calling into question of the 2024 numbers is being done by some independent people. I should know this. I talked to the guy actually who's behind one of these. They're doing it. They'll go through the courts on it. They have the ability to do it if they want. I think we should support their ability to do it. But this isn't being led by the Democratic Party. It's not being led by any lawmakers. Kamala and conceded immediately, right, as soon as they lost. Trump didn't want to concede. He said openly he's never going to concede. He still says that he won that election. And so I would say the behavior is already markedly different. But I would even take it a step further and say, if the Democrats were to put up the exact same fight that the Republicans did, which I don't think they should do because I think Trump clearly and plainly broke the law in several different ways, the Democrats would even have more justification because Trump, one, did try to steal an election, and then two, there was like behavior of people who were charged and convicted with crimes who were trying to help people get access to voting machines that they shouldn't. The most common example, or the most prominent one, would be that Tina Peters lady, I think in Colorado, who let a bunch of the fucking Mike Lindell guy and a bunch of people in to take like photos and take hard drive copies of like some of the voting machines, which never should have happened. It was never allowed to have happened. So like if Democrats were paranoid about that, they would have a reason to be. Republicans had no reason to. And you know this because when Democrats were, we can even look at the behavior. When Democrats were saying the election was rigged, now you've got some people who are looking at ballot totals or whatever else who are saying this. Donald Trump was saying the election was rigged a year before the election.
Well, he doesn't trust mail-in ballots because of Fox News told him not to trust it. So
I don't agree. I think he doesn't trust them because he knew they were going to favor Democrats because of COVID. He knew the Democrats were more likely to stay home and vote because historically mail-in ballots never really favored one side or the other. If anything, I think the studies have these slightly favor conservatives because more military people tend to do the mail-in ballot thing.
Fred, you still have more time, but I just need to make a quick announcement. Are there any other debaters in the audience that bought a debate ticket who haven't gone up yet? I'm just checking that out. And that's, is that David? Yeah, okay, David, you'll be up next. Everyone will be going home with a free signed poster tonight and a picture with Destiny if you want one. We will transition to that after we are done with our debaters. But Fred, please continue. Great stuff.
Oh,
do you have anything
really
else?
bailed me out. Thank you. I appreciate that. Because I was prepared to focus on immigration and energy exports. In general, you tend to say that Trump didn't really accomplish anything during his first term, and he did manage to up our net petroleum exports to the all-time high and get us towards, not completely, but towards energy independence.
Who got us to energy independence?
Who?
Biden did. Under Biden, that happened, right? The exports continued to climb. We became a net exporter of energy under Biden. And
Well, the net petroleum exports happened in 2019 under Trump.
Maybe, but I know that for total net energy, I'm pretty sure we were a net energy exporter. I believe it was for the first time under Biden. But our energy exports just continued to increase and increase. Maybe some of that was spurred on by stuff that Trump did, but I know that in general it continued to increase under Biden.
I was under the impression that we were still a crude importer under Biden.
I think we might have to import crude, but there's like a whole refinery process that makes it like usable in other oil products, right? So like we import from Canada and everything too.
But Biden has removed the natural gas pause that Trump has removed the natural gas pause that Biden put in, and so we are now an exporter, one of the major exporters of liquid natural gas, thanks to Trump as well. So
sure. I would have to be fair, I'd have to have more familiarity with these policies to know, I guess, how I feel about them or why because like there are some things that he did, like there was one for like opening drilling on like federal lands or whatever, but I think that there were like so few like reserves related to this that it didn't really do anything. He made a big deal about this, but it didn't actually increase the drilling that much. I guess when I look at the biggest issue that I have when I look at Trump's like energy policy is it seems like he doesn't have an energy policy. It seems like he has like an old I was gonna say Rockefeller. He likes like oil and coal. Like that's his policy. And whatever increases like fossil fuel, he just likes that. And I don't know why you wouldn't take a more comprehensive approach to generating energy unless you literally just have like these weird biases against anything that people call green.
Well, his policies in general can be distilled down to like one word sound bites. That's the way that he operates. And then he relies on the rest of his policymakers to kind of extrapolate what he wants, because while he has been pushing for more energy independence and more, energy, it's not just coal. He's gone about it through other sectors of the industry as well.
Sure, but he's like killed like so much solar and wind related stuff just because he does, and like you can tell that he doesn't have a good reason for it. When he's talking about like the sad dying whales for the wind turbines, and when he's talking about solar doesn't work at night, like I feel like these are unserious arguments, especially after he bragged about painting the border fence black. Like, why couldn't they cross the border at night if that's how solar panels work? It just seems like a very unserious position, which is my issue with like all the Trump positions, I guess. Is it just there's not like this concentrated effort to really do like a big push in a reasonable way. Like you say, like he relies on his policymakers. I think in Trump 1, I think you could say that. In Trump 2, he just picked a bunch of like, it's mean, but I would say retarded sycophants who are wholly incapable. Like I think that I feel like if I was Kristi Noem, I would self-deport. If I was the Department of Homeland Security Secretary and somebody asked me what habeas corpus was and I didn't know the answer to that, I would just bury my head in shame forever. That would be like...
But his team of sycophants has been able to accomplish more of what he wants this term.
And if we say what he wants is like the crazy military operation style of deploying National Guard troops everywhere and everything else, but in terms of like actual accomplishments that are going to leave America changed after this administration, like policy-wise, is basically nothing, right?
Well, to be fair, like deploying troops on U.S. soil is definitely going to be a big change from the past. So.
Yeah, he's done like a lot of authoritarian stuff, but he hasn't done like a lot of stuff that's going to leave like a positive, lasting effect if that was his goal. Like our trade relations with the rest of the world, I think, are going to be hurt after this presidency. They're hurt now. They're going to be hurt for a while. That's going to take a while to earn trust back. Our military alliances, I think, are severely undercut right now.
Well, our military alliances, because of his pushing, spending in NATO is up across the board.
Yeah, because he hates them.
Yeah, he hates them because they weren't paying their fair share.
Yeah, but the fact you just are willing to say he hated our NATO allies, again, that goes to my point.
Okay,
that
figuratively speaking. I don't think he actually hated them, but he took a look at the numbers, and we were paying the most. They weren't upholding their agreements, and he's got them to up their...
Yeah, but that sounds like a progressive talking about taxes. Billionaires don't pay enough. Like, they're just mad. They don't sound like they want to make the country better. They just want to sound like these taxes as a punishment.
Yeah.
If Trump was saying something along the lines of, like, I want to do XYZ mission, or I wish that our NATO allies contributed more so that we were a more cohesive unit or whatever, that's fine. But all he does is he shits on NATO constantly, and he brags about making people pay more money into it like it's a big fuck you to everybody. Like, that's the approach, right?
Well, the big difference is, progressives would do that too if they could, but Trump has a big red button that allows him to push it and get instant gratification. So, of course, he's going to push that button.
Yeah, but why would we support somebody like that as president? You're describing a retard.
It's working for him in some
It's
strange
working
way.
for him insofar as like he's like a good reality TV show host, but like I don't think it's working for us in the country.
It depends on the metrics that you're going for, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess if you're looking to watch reality TV.
That's all American politics is right now, according to Fox
but why?
News. So.
Because we elected a reality TV star, I think, right? Like, I feel like Biden conducted himself in a manner more consistent with the decorum we would expect the President of the United States to conduct himself with than Trump has in the past and is currently doing.
I would tend to agree with you on that one, but the fact of the matter is Biden had the tools in his kit to accomplish a lot of things that Trump is doing right now, and he just didn't do it.
I think
border crossings are down, as I've said. Those numbers are true; they're hard facts, and they were done through executive order. So that border bill didn't need to be passed at all.
Well, I mean, one, the EO is going to be challenged, and I think it is being challenged right now. I don't know where the case is at on that. And then two, we didn't get like all the increased funding and everything else for the arbitration judges to actually chew through all of the asylum seekers here that were caught and released to like actually decrease those numbers. Like those people are still going to be floating around for however long it takes to process them, because I don't think we ever increased the funding for the asylum judges or anything.
Yeah, but we're not getting flooded with new people into the system.
I understand
so
that. 25 million though, it's a lot.
Any final thoughts there, Fred?
I guess I just like Biden dealt with a lot in his administration, and I think he accomplished a lot. Right? We had the whole Ukraine-Russia war opened. We were coming off of all the crazy COVID stuff. We had the whole Israel-Palestine stuff, like explode. Like all of that stuff was going on internationally, and then we still had to rebuild in the United States, which we largely did. And then like inflation and the illegal immigration, everything was coming down at the end of his term. For Donald Trump, the illegal immigration was increasing. It was starting to go back up. It was higher in like the last 2 quarters or something than it was ever under Obama. But then COVID hit and everything shut down. So he was lucky there. He got saved on his immigration numbers there a lot. So yeah, I feel like if these were problems that we actually cared about. Would you be happy? I guess the final question, I'll give you the last response. Like, if we got through these 4 years and all Donald Trump has done is executive orders and march the military around, and there's no legislation and no permanent solutions, or at least long-term solutions to any of the problems we have, would you consider that to be like a success or more successful than Kamala would have been?
No, absolutely not. I think that's a first step, and he needs to basically take the rest of American policy more seriously in order to become a good president. But immigration is a deeply personal issue to me and my family, and he has made real gains in it, although I have to take a look at what he says realistically as well.
Sure.
But holistically, if we were to examine his entire presidency, he has to turn some things around, absolutely.
Okay.
That is the West Coast. Keep your applause going for your main man, Donald Trump's worst nightmare, Destiny.
Thank you guys for coming out. We'll be doing poster signings, I think, in like 5 minutes. I appreciate you all. I love you so much. And yeah, where are we going to be set up at?
Yeah, the poster signing line's going to start right here, you guys. Now we're going to move into the post show. Hopefully we'll turn a little music on. And be very careful of the cameras and all the cable, okay? Line's going to start right by me here. You're going to go on this side of the cameras, going this way. So first person right here. And it's going to go that way, the line, you guys. Everyone, the line's going to go towards the speakers. Yeah, see how they're forming the line here? And it's going to go all the way around. Be very